Ma'am, isn't this rent hike a little steep? Eris stared at the new price on the lease agreement, a little stunned. The landlady crossed her arms, one leg casually slung over the other. She glanced up at Era, unfazed. What isn't getting more expensive these days? If you can't accept it, you can leave. This apartment is in a prime location. I've got people lining up to rent it. The landlady was trying to flee her, but the lease was up today. Where could she possibly go? If she walked out that door, she'd be homeless. She had no choice but to accept the new price. But the landlady had overestimated her. You can't squeeze blood from a stone, and you can't fleece someone who's truly broke. All clenched her jaw and made a decision. Fine. I'll leave. Who'd want to live in this dump anyway? Staying longer would just mean getting scammed again. The sooner she left, the better. Half an hour later, dragged her suitcase out of the apartment. The moment the door slammed shut behind her, she heard a woman shouting from the apartment across the hall. If you don't have money, why are you trying to rent an apartment? Do you really think you can get by on your looks? I'm not some 18-year-old girl who falls for that. Grab your suitcase and get out. Don't waste my time. Curious, Alara looked over. The opposite door opened, and a tall, well-built man emerged, also dragging a suitcase. He was dressed in a white casual outfit and looked to be in his early 20s. He had fair skin and strikingly handsome features, but his eyes held a cool, arrogant distance, giving him the sharp, imposing air of a young master who was owed a fortune. Their eyes met. To ease the awkwardness, spoke up carefully. You too? Did your landlord spring a last-minute rent hike on you? Kale looked away and strode toward the elevator, his tone flat. No. Oh. All nodded. So he was just plain broke. Even broker than her. He had the face of a young master, but not the fortune. Remembering what the woman had yelled, she couldn't help but ask. So, were you trying to use your good looks to get out of it? Kale shot her a look, momentarily speechless. Then he said, tonelessly, I told her I'd pay her back within the month. A delay tactic, huh? All studied his handsome face for a moment, then said with complete sincerity, he would have had better luck with the pretty boy routine. This time, Kyle didn't even look at her. He shoved one hand in his pocket. His dark, unreadable eyes fixed on the elevator doors. The doors slid open and followed Kale all the way to the complex entrance. The two of them, each dragging a suitcase down the street, should have looked pathetic after being kicked out for not paying rent. But with their standout looks and confident demeanor, they didn't seem down on their luck at all. They looked less like people worried about money and more like the son and daughter of a tycoon about to travel the world. A chubby man in glasses walked toward them with a wide grin. Hey, you two. Interested in being on a reality show? It's a program that could make you famous overnight, and you'll even have a chance to win $1 million in cash. The first part didn't interest, but the words $1 million struck a chord deep in her heart. She reached out and tugged on the hem of Kale's shirt, her eyes shining as she stared at the back of his head. $1 million. Kale felt the small tug and stopped. He turned slightly, his gaze traveling down from her soft hand before landing on her face with a look that screamed, What's that got to do with me? Ara's face was flushed with excitement. Kale found it almost funny. He sized up the man in glasses, then said to Arara, You actually believe a scammer? But response left him speechless again. What are you afraid of? We're broke. What's there to scam? She shuffled closer to Kale, her eyes still on the man in glasses. Everything we own combined probably isn't worth as much as the watch on his wrist, she whispered. If he tries to scam us, we'll just snatch his watch and run. Kale looked at her bright, clear eyes, unsure whether to praise her for being audacious enough to get herself arrested, or for being so incredibly naive. Aren't you afraid he'll trick you into some dangerous remote place? You wouldn't be able to run then. I'll have you, won't I? At what point had he and she become a team? Air suddenly felt a deep sense of destiny with Kyle. They had only known each other for 10 minutes, but they were both homeless, both broke, and now they were both being offered $1 million. He was her comrade in arms. They had witnessed each other at their lowest, and now they would witness each other's rise to the top. The man in glasses saw them whispering and knew he had a shot. He grinned. Look at you two. You even have your luggage packed. This is fate. Sign the contract and I'll get you into a huge villa. You'll eat the finest food and win $1 million. To Kale, it sounded more and more like a pyramid scheme. What's the show? Who's the real billionaire? Allah's smile froze. Who's the real billionaire? Well, she wasn't. And the guy next to her couldn't possibly be. The show's title had absolutely nothing to do with them. It seemed the $1 million was about to slip through their fingers. The man saw her disappointment and quickly explained, "It's okay if you're not a billionaire. You just have to be good at pretending to be one. The show will have 4 teams of guests, but only one is genuinely rich. At the end, the audience will vote on who they think is the real deal. If you successfully trick them, you win the $1 million prize." All got it. So, we just go on and act the part. The man nodded with a smile. You could say that. And the show will provide each fake team with a $100,000 budget. Even if you lose, you get to keep that $100,000 as your payment for the 5 days. Air's eyes lit up. I think we can be frugal with that $100,000. Even if we lose, we'll still have money left over. It's a win-win. The man pulled out a contract for the fake billionaire role and introduced himself as Kevin Jen, the show's assistant director. Welcome aboard. Kale carefully read through the contract's terms before neatly signing his name. Once he was done, Ara signed hers. She glanced at the name he had just written. His handwriting was nice, with sharp, decisive strokes. Much like the man himself. A little edgy and intense. Your name is Kale. That's a nice name. Heaven's eyes widened, darting between them. You two don't know each other? I thought you were a couple. A couple? Ara turned to look at Kyle, who remained silent and utterly unfazed. She couldn't imagine what this serious, unsmiling man would be like in a relationship. It would probably be incredibly boring. A couple was out, but partners sounded good. Kevin pulled a bank card from his pocket. Here's the $100,000 from the show, and the PIN is 192837. Kale leaned back on the sofa, crossing his long legs. His posture was lazy and casual, yet it exuded an air of effortless and commanding nobility. All studied his convincing act, and suddenly felt like half the $1 million was already in her pocket. She looked at the bank card on the coffee table. So, how do we split this? Divide the spoils now or what? Kale spoke nonchalantly. You hold on to it for now? Ara nodded. If we win the $1 million, we split it 50-50. If we don't, we split this $100,000 50-50. Sound good? Kale had no problem with that. 3 days later, the show premiered and a hot topic exploded online. A show where you can win $1 million just by acting rich. You learn something new every day. I don't get it. What kind of idiot would sponsor a show this absurd? Online reviews were mixed and highly controversial. But that didn't stop the show's popularity from soaring. On the live feed, a black Rolls-Royce, a symbol of money, power, and status, slowly rolled into view. Is that the first team of guests? Wah! They're starting with a bang. How can the next team top that? The Rolls-Royce came to a smooth stop in front of a luxurious villa, and a man and a woman stepped out. A light blush appeared on Lana's fair cheeks as she smiled at the camera. Hello, everyone. I'm Lana, and this is my boyfriend, Sean. Heaven, the assistant director, started hyping them up. So, you're a couple. No wonder I thought you two looked so perfect together, even from a distance. This couple is so gorgeous, and they look so sweet. Isn't it a bit too much? I don't think they're the real billionaires. They have a Rolls-Royce. How are they not rich? Just then, a Lamborghini roared into view with an exhilarating sound. The scissor doors lifted, and Faye and Finn stepped out. Faye, in a crop top and black hot pants, showed off her stunning figure. The metal chain of her purse glinted in the bright light. Finn, in a flashy blue suit, stood beside her like a peacock in full display. Impossible to ignore. Hey everyone, I'm Finn, and this is my sister Faye. The siblings are good-looking too, though. The brothers' taste is unique. Fa seems more like a rich girl. You can't fake that kind of natural arrogance. Yeah, Lana's dress is more expensive, but she still seems a bit timid in comparison. Faye's bag is a limited edition Dior. It's a 6-figure bag. The two siblings just got out of the car when a helicopter descended from the sky. Kevin was stunned. Helicopter to a reality show? Was this person insane? Then again, for a show about flaunting wealth, it was perfectly normal. Jay, dressed in black cargo pants and a white shirt, jumped out of the helicopter with a cool, easy motion. He smiled at the camera and gave a whistle, acting completely at ease. Hey everyone, I'm Jay, and this is my sister Jade. Jade stood beside Jay in a pair of stilettos, her expression cool and distant, looking like she couldn't be bothered and might walk away at any moment. Jay chuckled and said casually, "Sorry, rush hour traffic was a mess, and my sister is not a morning person. We had to take the helicopter to avoid being late." Jade shot him a fierce glare. Jay flinched and silently wondered what he'd said wrong. Using a helicopter to beat rush hour traffic. I'm so jealous. Do these two siblings actually like each other or not? I'm not sure. A Rolls-Royce, a Lamborghini, and a helicopter. I can't wait to see what the last team brings. If the last team doesn't show up in a rocket, I'm not even going to bother. 15 minutes later, amidst great anticipation, the final team finally arrived. Two figures appeared in the distance and everyone on site froze. They're probably just passing by, right? Is that the last team of guests? I think so too. Or maybe they're staff. There's no way they're guests. Amid the doubtful murmurs, Era and Kale, dressed in ordinary clothes, calmly pulled up on rental bikes and stopped in front of the camera. Kevin scratched his head, confirming that these were the two fake billionaires he had recruited. He was baffled. Rental bikes? Were they serious? The others had arrived in luxury cars in a helicopter. Ada smiled faintly. Hi everyone, this is my friend Kale. As she spoke, she glanced at the man beside her. Kyle was as composed as a real billionaire. Not bad acting, she thought. I think we're going to be great partners. Kevin's smile was stiff as he asked the million-dollar question. What made you decide to come to the show on rental bikes? He might as well have said, how dare you compare rental bikes to luxury cars and helicopters? Ara glanced at the unaffordable vehicles parked nearby, suppressing the urge to gasp. She straightened her back and said with perfect composure, "We're being eco-friendly." Kevin was so impressed, he almost gave them a thumbs up. This was some next-level faking. He suddenly felt like his own perspective had been broadened. Now, this is the kind of big-picture thinking you'd expect from the truly wealthy. I think they're the real billionaires. I agree. Actually, the truly rich are very low-key. They're not even fazed by the helicopter and luxury cars. They've clearly seen it all, and they aren't the least bit embarrassed or flustered about riding bikes to the show. Their composure is flawless, so they must be the real billionaires. Kyle parked his bike, his eyes briefly sweeping over the rear of a black Lamborghini. His gaze paused for a second before returning to normal. Asara and Kale walked in. All eyes turned to them. A sharp, mocking voice cut through the air. Well, well, the ones who came on rental bikes. No wonder you were so slow. Next time, just call me. I'll have my brother pick you up in his Lamborghini. Ara looked at Faye, who was dressed for warm weather, and a small smile played on her lip. She sat down in the seat, replying in a nonchalant and dismissive tone. If you're so eager to be our free chauffeur like that, I don't mind giving you the chance. It's just that I'm not a big fan of sports cars. I prefer something more comfortable to sit in. Next time you want to pick me up, remember to switch to a different car. Okay. F.A. had wanted to mock Ara and Kale and show off her luxury car, but she hadn't expected Ara to be even more shameless. Not only did treat her like a free driver, but she was also acting like a boss, picking and choosing her ride. The nerve of this woman was about to retort when Finn, his face a little grim, placed a hand on her arm and gave her a look. Faye immediately fell silent. Ara gets an 8 out of 10 for that comeback. Faye tried to mock them, but ended up being treated like a free ride. Ara's mindset and quick thinking are definitely what you'd expect from a billionaire. Kale, who had followed in, also glanced at Faye. With his hands in his pockets, he casually added, "And I don't like riding in second-hand Lamborghinis." His tone was light, but his eyes were deep and steady, and his expression was so natural that it was hard to doubt his words. Faye and Finn's expressions visibly froze. They swallowed nervously, a reaction that clearly showed Kale had hit the mark. Ara looked at Kyle in astonishment. He could tell their Lamborghini was secondhand just by looking at it. This guy was a pro. What's going on? Faye's Lamborghini is secondhand. The fake rich girl exposed. How did that handsome guy know? Was he just guessing? Not just the viewers were curious, was too. She whispered so only he could hear. How did you know? Hale's tone was flat. That car used to be mine. All scoffed and patted his broad shoulder lightly. Come on, buddy. You don't have to keep up the act with me. That's not cool. Cale lowered his eyes to look at her, not bothering to explain, just coldly saying, Don't call me your friend. Then he strode ahead. All snorted to herself. Still pretty cool, though. Jay started the conversation. The director said, We have to sort out our own breakfast, lunch, and dinner. What are you all thinking for lunch? Sean, sitting properly on the sofa, casually rolled up his sleeves, revealing a gleaming watch. There's a pretty good Japanese place on the main street, but you usually need a reservation. I'm a VIP there, though, so we can skip that step. If you all want to go, lunch is on me. Lana, holding Sean's arm, added with a soft smile. The Japanese place Sean mentioned is really good. We should all go try it. Faye, still smarting from her earlier defeat, wanted to regain some ground and salvage her rich girl image. She fiddled with the chain of her limited edition bag and said, What's so great about Japanese food? Let's get steak instead. I know a 5-star steakhouse that's amazing. The meat is tender, the service is great, and I'll pay. Finn, sitting next to her, crossed his legs and nodded. Steak works. I'm not a big fan of Japanese food. Let's do steak. It's on us. At the mention of steak, Jay suddenly got excited. Speaking of steak, I know a really unique place that only serves 5 tables a day. I know the owner. How about I treat everyone? Jade, who had been silent and aloof, suddenly spoke up coldly, Not going. Fee looked at Jade, assuming she was just being cheap and didn't want to pay for everyone. She said smugly, How about this, Jay? You contact the owner, and I'll cover the bill. John didn't want to be outdone. I can pay too. Compared to the scene of them fighting over the bill, Ara and Cale were unusually calm. Ara sat on the sofa, her gaze directed out the window, looking like she was lost in her own thoughts. Ara, though calm on the surface, was internally freaking out. Why are they fighting to treat everyone? These people will do anything to show off their wealth. Once they had argued for a bit, she cleared her throat and in the calm tone of a CEO said, Why are we wasting time on such a small matter? Let's do it this way. Faye pays today, Sean pays tomorrow, and Jay pays the day after. We'll just take turns. The other 3 teams fell silent and turned to look at her. What she said made sense, but something felt off. Then it hit them. Faye pays today, Sean pays tomorrow, Jay pays the day after, but Ada never pays. She wasn't spending a dime and was still bossing them around like a CEO. Cale wasn't paying close attention, but he could still hear. He thought he would just quietly accept a free meal, but he never imagined she'd plan out free meals for the next 3 days. It's just lunch. Why are they making such a big deal about who pays? See, that's how a leader acts. Calm and composed in the face of chaos. I agree. Ara and Kyle are definitely the real billionaires. People with real status wouldn't bother with these petty displays. All let out a barely perceptible sigh, wondering if her act had been successful. Today, her and Cale's strategy was all about a particular vibe. The vibe of not spending a single cent. Fee looked at, and Cale with disdain and snorted. So you two just get to freeload off us for 3 meals? Ara tapped her fingers on the armrest of the sofa and gave a lazy smile. She corrected her lightly. You were the ones fighting to treat us. Not that we wanted to freeload. Besides, do we look like people who care about the cost of 3 meals? Faye, still annoyed, shot back. Who knows? Allah's gaze swept over the other 3 teams, and she said generously, If you don't want to pay, just say so. We'll treat for all 3 meals. Since they were all there to act rich and show off, there was no way they would give, and Kyle such a perfect opportunity to shine. The other 3 teams, without a second's thought, all blurted out in unison, No. Ara knew that would be their answer. Finn shot another look at Faye, who realized she had been too hasty. She swallowed her frustration, and turned her head to look away haughtily. Jay stepped in to ease the tension with a smile. Then let's do as Sarah said. We'll take turns, Sean then said, magnanimously. Riding a bike is too far. Why don't you ride with us? Sean's attitude was different from Faye's, so saw no reason to argue with him. Besides, who would ride a rental bike when they could ride in a Rolls Royce? Ara smiled politely. That would be great. Thank you. John and Lana sat in the front, while Ara and Kale sat in the back. It was Ara's first time in a Rolls Royce, and she had to admit, it was as comfortable as you'd expect from something built with money. She glanced at Kale and saw him leaning back with his eyes closed, resting. Right, I have to be calm too, she thought. I'm a billionaire now. I can't let them see that I've never been in a Rolls Royce. I can't look like I've never seen the world. So, she copied Kale and closed her eyes to rest. Sean, seeing them both completely relaxed in the rearview mirror, suddenly felt like he was their chauffeur, driving the young master and miss out for the day. Am I the only one who thinks Ara and Kyle look like a couple? They even sit in the car the same way, like they were cut from the same cloth. I'm already shipping them. The private room at the restaurant was already prepared for them. The decor was stylish, and the floor-to-ceiling windows offered a stunning view of the river, but had no time to admire the scenery. She was too busy trying to figure out which hand was for the knife. She glanced around and saw Kale slowly enjoying his meal. His long, elegant fingers held the knife and fork, expertly cutting his steak into even pieces. He was even better at acting the part than she was. A satisfied smile touched lips. That's my partner. Not bad. He's not dragging me down. Kyle felt a strange gaze on him and looked up to see, staring at the steak on his plate. He raised an eyebrow slightly. You don't know how to cut a steak? Ara looked at him and nodded in admiration. Hale was speechless. It was good that he, an adult, was praised for eating a meal. He swapped his plate of cut steak with hers and, pretending to be doing, said, Go on, eat. The live stream chat went wild. There's definitely something going on between these two. They're even making eyes at each other over dinner. Everyone knows Friends is a cover-up. If there's nothing between them, I'll eat my hat. Ficing the jewel necklace on Lana's neck, said with a mix of envy and disappointment. Lana, is that necklace the new one from brand A? I couldn't even get on the wait list. I'm so bummed. Lana felt a little awkward and tried to change the subject with a smile. Faye, is your bag from Dior? I love their bags too. We have similar taste. I really like their design philosophy. Faye then paused and deliberately turned the conversation to Alara, who was dressed in plain clothes. What about you? What brand are you wearing? It looks quite nice. All smiled faintly. I prefer some of the smaller local design brands over international ones. Not only are the styles new and fashionable, but I think they're just as good as some of the big foreign brands. This outfit is from a small local shop. It's not expensive, and you can find it online if you like it. Faye got the answer she wanted and smirked. Now, the viewers would definitely not think was a real billionaire. But to her surprise, Era's straightforward admission won over a lot of the viewers. It's the billionaire mindset supporting local brands. We love to see it. Kale's gaze deepened. He turned his head, his eyes narrowing slightly as he looked at the watch on Finn's wrist. He then said calmly to Faye, Your brother's watch is fake. Faye's smirk froze on her face. Her voice rose. Don't just say things like that. Do you have any proof? You can check it yourself when you get home, right? Or you can check it now and let everyone see if it's real or not. Kyle's tone was cool, but he gave Faye an out, letting her choose between checking it later in private or being exposed in public. If it was fake, checking it in front of everyone would be a huge embarrassment. Faye's confidence instantly deflated. Ara, seeing that Faye couldn't be arrogant anymore, felt a surge of satisfaction. She bit her lip to keep from laughing and gave Kyle a thumbs up under the table. Nice one. Kale strikes again. The siblings are definitely faking it. They're not even trying. Getting exposed on the first day. Finn and Faye are too scared to even argue back. They're definitely not the real billionaires. I almost fell for Faye's rich girl act. Jay, seeing the tension, quickly called a server to settle the bill. He was worried they might start a fight in the private room if they kept talking. The server politely said to Jay, Our owner said that this table is for very important guests. We are to meet all your needs, and the meal is on the house. Jay looked completely flattered. He jumped up from his seat, his voice filled with excitement. Did your owner really say that? That I'm a very important guest? The server looked at the tall young man, her expression complicated. I guess so. The waiter also didn't know if Jay was the extremely important guest that the boss mentioned. He was just repeating the boss's instructions word for word. Jay looked up at the ceiling, lost in his own world. I'm so touched. Jay must be the real billionaire. Look at his connections. I agree. Ara has the billionaire vibe, but we haven't seen her show any real power yet. After lunch, the 4 teams returned to the villa. Ara, feeling like the steak hadn't been very filling, wandered into the kitchen and discovered the fridge was stocked with ingredients. It turned out that when the show said they had to sort out their own meals, it meant they had to cook for themselves, not go out and show off by treating everyone. Ara looked at the food in the fridge and wondered what she could make that would seem like something a billionaire would eat. In other words, what did billionaires eat all day? Suddenly, a deep voice came from behind her. Are you picking out your royal concubines in there? Ara turned around. Kayleigh had arrived at the perfect time. Playing along, she asked with a mischievous smile. And what kind of concubine do you think would suit someone of my status? Kale reached past her, his long arm brushing by her ear, and grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge. He twisted off the cap and took a couple of swallows. From an angle, her gaze fell on his Adam's apple as it bobbed, and the movement highlighted the sharp, clean lines of his jaw and neck. It was quite a captivating sight. If he had been willing to use his looks back then, thought, rich women would be lining up to be his sugar mama. He wouldn't have ended up broke and faking it on a show with me. Kale met her eyes and answered tonelessly. Just pick what you like. You don't need to care about what others think. Kale had really mastered the billionaire attitude. His words perfectly matched the personality of someone rich. Ada checked the time. Dinner was in 2 hours. She picked a small piece of mousse cake from the fridge to tide her over. Just then, the other guests walked in. The show prepared so much food for us. Looks like dinner is sorted. Do we have to cook ourselves? All said, seriously, you should eat out less. It's not healthy. It seems the richer you are, the more you care about your quality of life. I don't think that's about being rich or not. Everyone knows that food from restaurants isn't healthy. Sean nodded. Lana turned to Sean and said, a little embarrassed, but we have maids who cook at home. I don't know how to cook. Sean, do you? Sean paused, his expression serious. We have a Michelin-starred private chef and a master of Chinese cuisine at home. I've barely even been in a kitchen. Jay closed the fridge and sighed. We have a cook at home, too. My sister and I just eat what's made for us. As listened, the cake in her mouth suddenly lost its flavor. She forced a smile, saying somewhat helplessly, well, then we're both in the same boat. What do we do now? Right at that moment, Lana asked, does your friend Kale know how to cook him? All lied without batting an eye. He's just a lazy, good-for-no, idle young master. How could he possibly know how to cook? Lana looked skeptical. He doesn't seem like it. Ara waved her hand dismissively, as if to say, I know him better than anyone. We're on a show. He's toned it down a lot. She didn't really know what Kale was like, but for the sake of the $1 million, and to avoid being the only maid in the villa, she had to throw him under the bus. Sorry, buddy, Jay suggested. How about I go ask Faye? He went straight up to the 3rd floor and knocked on Faye's door. F.A. was in her room arguing with a personal shopper. I spent $40,000 on a watch, and it's a fake. You better give me an explanation today. She hung up in frustration just as she heard the knock. She opened the door to see Jay, her expression impatient. What is it? Jay got straight to the point. Do you know how to cook? We found a lot of food in the kitchen, but none of us know what to do with it. My brother and I don't cook, Fee said coldly, not wanting to eat with and Kyle again. Since no one knows how, we should just cook for ourselves and not bother anyone else. Ada stared at the stove, her expression grave. She was thinking, if I cook too well, will I blow my cover? Kale saw the scene in the kitchen and said flatly, still can't pick a concubine. Do you eat eggplant? Laura wasn't a picky eater, but Kale probably didn't know that no one else could cook. More importantly, he was likely unaware of his new persona as a lazy, good-for-no, idle young master. Kale suddenly leaned in closer. What's wrong? Don't trust me? Ada's heart skipped a beat. Before she could answer, she heard his voice again. Leave it to me. I've got this. Like a bandit, snatched the eggplant from Kale's hand. I'll do it. Her sudden initiative gave Kale a bad feeling. 2 minutes later, his bad feeling was confirmed. He watched as with her clumsy knife skills, chopped the eggplant into uneven strips, so ugly that even the eggplant's own mother would have to think twice about whether it was her child. Hale raised an eyebrow. Are you performing microsurgery on that eggplant? Looking like a total novice, said defensively. I'm afraid of cutting myself. This is exactly how a beginner who's never been in a kitchen should act, Ara thought confidently. Faking incompetence. So easy. She glanced around, then asked Sean, who was cooking with surprising skill. Chef Sean, how do you turn on the stove? Sean looked at the pure stupidity shining in Ara's eyes and his brow twitched. Turn it to the left. As he said it, Sean's hand paused, his heart lurching. He had also claimed he couldn't cook. But compared to Ara, the kitchen novice, wasn't he a little too skilled? And she had just called him Chef Sean, and he had actually responded. The live stream chat erupted in laughter. Ara, are you for real? Is this really Sean's first time? He looks like a pro compared to Lara. Kale watched Ara fumbling to turn on the stove. The pan wasn't even hot yet and she already poured in the oil, followed by the salt. Hale tensed up, looking at her in complete confusion, trying to give her a hint. Shouldn't you put the vegetables in before the salt? Ara, pretending not to understand, gave him a blank look. Huh? Is that how it works? It's fine. It doesn't matter when you put it in. It's all in the pan now. It's not going anywhere. Kale wanted to run. Let me do it, he said, his tone leaving no room for argument, but wasn't about to let him steal her spotlight. She used her body to block him from her masterpiece. She said confidently, Trust me, I've got this. I'm going to make you the most delicious dinner of your life. A cold laugh escaped Kale's lips. More like the last dinner of my life. You need to have faith in your friends. I'm starting to think dinner isn't essential. The viewers were in stitches. These two are killing me. Clearly has no idea what she's doing. She's obviously a spoiled rich girl. Hale's expression is so doting. Sean was a surprisingly fast learner. He was doing so well for his first time. Lana praised him with a smile. Sean, you're amazing. You're doing so great for your first try, Sean replied modestly. It's all right. I just pick things up quickly. I really don't think this is his first time cooking. Not necessarily. Maybe he's just a billionaire who's seen a lot, so something as simple as cooking is no big deal for him. Jade couldn't cook meat, so she just stir-fried some cabbage. After plating it, she handed Jay a pair of chopsticks. Try it. Jay picked up a small piece of greens and put it in his mouth. Immediately, his face scrunched up, I think. Under Jade's increasingly sharp gaze, Jay chose his words carefully, his survival instinct kicking in. It's the cabbage's fault, it's definitely not you. Look how scared he is. Jay's will to live is so strong. Air's stir-fried eggplant was also ready. She brought it to the table and called out, Young Master Kale, dinner's ready. Kale's eyes fell on the plate. He raised his eyebrows in surprise. It actually looked edible. At least it was cooked and not burnt. Ada picked up a piece of eggplant and put it in his mouth. It tasted surprisingly good. He looked up at Lara, who had a flicker of pride in her eyes. Of course, she had never made anything that tasted bad. She had just made it look bad on purpose while carefully controlling the flavor. Jay, seeing Kale eating, looked at him as if he'd found a kindred spirit. He said sympathetically, Is that stuff even edible? Kale just grunted and kept eating. Jay didn't believe for a second that what made could be good. He kindly advised, If you're being threatened, just say so. Don't be afraid. We're on a show. She won't do anything to you. Kale gave him a look as if he were an idiot, then ignored him and continued eating. Young Master Kale, you're spoiling her too much. There's no way that dish tastes good after how it was made. Jade tapped the edge of the plate with her chopsticks and glared at Jay. Eat your food and mind your own business. Okay, sis, Jay replied with an obedient smile. He then proceeded to eat 1 bite of cabbage for every 8 bites of rice. Finishing his bowl, he got up to get another bowl of rice, and when he returned, he said to Jade with a smile, This dish is really delicious. It just makes you want to eat a lot of rice. Was that cabbage grown in a salt mine? Kevin Jang smiled. Our first day of recording is coming to an end. For the final part of the show, we'll open the voting channels for the first day's poll. The team that gets first place shouldn't celebrate too early, because today's winner could be in last place tomorrow. Wow, they're starting the voting on day one. The team that wins today will definitely be targeted by everyone else, right? I love this kind of drama. Let the games begin, F.A. asked. So, you mean there will be a vote every day and the results will be public? Kevin nodded. Yes, you'll see your ranking in real time, every day. The final vote that decides the winner will be on the last day of the show. Otta sighed internally. $1 million is not going to be easy to win. It seems like today was just a warm-up, and the real drama was yet to come. Heaven looked at the camera with a mischievous expression. Dear viewers, are you ready? You can now vote for the billionaire team you believe in. Which team will be number one today? Half an hour later, the results were in. In first place, Kale. In second, Jade and Jay. In third, Sean and Lana. And in fourth, Faye and Finn. All felt a mix of joy and dread. Joy, because their act had been a huge success. Dread, because the other three teams would now definitely be after them. This wasn't just a public vote. It was a public declaration of enemies. After all, $1 million was on the line. Who wouldn't go crazy for that? As Kevin finished speaking, the other three teams' hostile gazes landed on Ara and Kyle. All looked at the camera with a cool, nonchalant expression, pursing her lips as if to say, "Oh, you figured it out this quickly? How boring." As for Kale, he was even more composed then. He leaned back on the sofa, his elbow resting on the armrest, looking completely uninterested in winning first place, or the $1 million prize. Why do I get a money doesn't interest me vibe from these two? Is this what they call a cool guy and a cool girl? That's rich people for you. They can be so calm even when they're in first place. The first day's live stream ended there. Since there wasn't much to film while they slept, the cameras were turned off. All the other teams immediately went to their rooms to rest, leaving Anne Kyle alone. Her happiness was impossible to hide. We were so good today. Kale's tone was cool, dampening her enthusiasm. Don't celebrate too soon. Tomorrow they'll definitely try to make everyone think we're the fake. Kale was right. The other three teams wouldn't just stand by and watch them win. But they couldn't lose their momentum. A smile played on Anne's lips, and she looked like she had it all under control. She leaned a little closer to Kyle and beckoned with her finger. Do you know what you really need to get by in this world? Kyle guessed randomly. A righteous spirit. Nope, said flatly. A bulletproof hide. I've got nothing to lose. You think I'm scared of them? I came on this show with no money to compete against them. Do I look like an ordinary person to you? So, you need to have faith in me. We are going to win that $1 million. After her passionate and uplifting speech, she didn't forget to praise Kale. But you did a great job today. You really impressed me. Kale didn't respond. Seeing his silence, figured it was because they hadn't known each other for long. He probably didn't see her as a real friend yet. But even if they weren't friends, they were partners, and they needed to build some camaraderie for better teamwork and a more harmonious partnership that would help them succeed. So, took the initiative again. We're great partners. I praised you, so don't you want to praise me back? What did you think of my performance today? Is there room for improvement? Kale slowly stood up and looked down at her, his lips parting slightly. The food was good. Don't make it again. Ara puffed out her cheeks in frustration. It was a compliment, but it also kind of wasn't. After saying that, Kale started to head upstairs. Ara, not wanting to sit there alone, followed him, also heading to her room. As they reached the second floor, Kyle suddenly stopped. Ara peeked out from behind him, confused. She saw Lana, who seemed to have just come down from the third floor and was heading to a room on the second floor. Before Kyle could say anything, Lana looked flustered. She blushed and explained, Sean texted me. He said he can't sleep, so he might not be used to the new place. Ara watched Lana's awkward explanation, then leaned forward with a casual air. We get it. You should go. Sean is waiting for you. Lana gave an embarrassed smile and hurried towards Sean's room. All watched her retreating back thoughtfully. Then a mischievous glint appeared in her eyes. She looked up at Kale's tall figure. She flashed a sweet smile and asked, "Did you sleep well tonight? Does sleeping in a new place feel boring?" Kale stopped in his tracks. He turned around, an eyebrow raised, his expression curious. Air's lips curled into a meaningful smile. "Add me on WeChat. I'll send you something explosive later. I guarantee it'll get your blood pumping, fill you with fighting spirit, and add a unique spark to your long, lonely night." There it was again. That bad feeling. Air's smile was mysterious. Kale, as if under a spell, pulled out his phone and added her on WeChat chat. For some reason, he felt a strange sense of anticipation. Before she left, Aurora whispered to Kyle, "Don't let anyone else see it. It's for your eyes only." As soon as Kale got back to his room, his phone buzzed 3 times in a row. He hesitated for a moment, then decided to take a look. 3 links with jumbled text appeared on his screen. Kale frowned, tapped the screen, and opened the first link. The web page loaded, and a bold headline appeared before his eyes. He let out a soft chuckle. The headline read, "How to Fake It with Style." He closed it and opened the second link. 138 ways to fake it till you make it. And the third, Pro Tips, the secrets to showing off your wealth you can't afford to miss. He closed the browser and another message from Alara came in. "So, explosive enough for you? Feeling pumped and ready to fight? Don't you feel like that million is already yours?"
I think Lana went to Sean's room to strategize.
We can't fall behind. You should study these tonight and brush up on your wealth-flaunting skills. Kale tilted his head and smiled. He was about to lock his phone and toss it aside when a hot search notification popped up at the top of his screen. Lazy young Master Kale, disliked by Rich Miss. Kale suddenly felt like this young Master Kale sounded familiar. He clicked on the hot search and couldn't help but laugh in exasperation. The content was a clip from that afternoon when Ma had called him a lazy, good-for-no, idle young master in front of the other guests. The show needed buzz. Even though it was a show about billionaires, they couldn't miss out on the popular trend of shipping couples. That was why all these strange hot searches kept appearing. Kale went back to his chat with he replied, "I'm not reading them." "Why not?" "Because I'm lazy, good-for-nothing, and idle. The viewers aren't even buying our ship anymore. It was a last resort, all for our $1 million. Don't worry about it. It's not like we're ever going to be in a real relationship. Just play the part I gave you." Ara lay in bed. A few minutes passed and Kyle still hadn't replied. Is he mad? She wondered. He can't be that sensitive, can he? The next morning was woken up by a knock on her door. "Ara, are you up?" It was Lana's voice. "I'm awake." Ara shook off her sleepiness and got out of bed to open the door. "I just got up. What's wrong?" Lana explained. "The show has arranged for us to go shopping after breakfast. You should get ready now." Ara nodded slightly. "Thanks. I got it." After Lana left, closed the door, and went back into her room, she sat on the edge of the bed and checked her phone. Kyle still hadn't replied. Is he really mad? You have to secure the home run before you can deal with outsiders. Today, they had to face their rivals together. They couldn't have internal conflicts now. With $1 million at stake, she sent Kale another message. "The show has plans for us. Why didn't you tell me? Aren't we supposed to be good?" It wouldn't have been appropriate. Ara washed up and chose a cream-colored long dress. Her tall, slender figure looked stunning in it, the cinched waist highlighting her perfect curves. As she walked downstairs, the live stream had already begun. 3 minutes. I need all the info on that dress. Found it. The same dress is $19.99. Link is here. It's a local brand. Buy with confidence. All is so eco-friendly, patriotic, and has great values. Asara approached. Kale, who was ahead of her, looked up in her direction for a moment, then looked away. A second later, his eyes darted back for another look. Look, isn't young Master Kale staring at her? My ship is definitely real. Today's breakfast was provided by the show. After eating, everyone headed to the largest shopping mall in the city center. Jay hated shopping. He stood in front of the mall entrance with a miserable expression. Do guys have to go in too? Jade glanced at him. If you don't go in, who's going to carry the bags? Finn pulled out a gleaming gold bank card and handed it to Faye. You go ahead. I'm not going in. Pick something nice this time and don't get scammed again. Call me when you're done. Faye took the card with a frown and said, haughtily, it was that unreliable personal shopper's fault. Who knew he'd try to pass off a fake on me? You go sit in that coffee shop. I'll call you when I'm done. I wish I had a brother like that. He doesn't make you shop with him and just gives you a card. As far as I know, you need to have a daily balance of at least 6 figures to get a gold card. Sean also took a card from his wallet and said to Lana with a smile, you girls go shopping. I'll sit this one out. You can use this card for whatever you want. I'll wait for your call at the coffee shop with Finn. Lana hesitated. I don't need it. I don't think that's right. Sean took her hand, his tone gentle. What's not right about it? You're my girlfriend. What's wrong with spending my money?
Go on, take it.
Lana blushed, took the card, and stood on her toes to give Sean a light kiss on the cheek. Then Jay also pulled out a card for Jade. Sis, you may not have a boyfriend or an older brother, but you have a younger brother. It's on me. I'll be waiting at the coffee shop for you too. Is today's challenge to see who can max out their guys' card first? Wow, I love watching other people spend money. F.A. Seeing that everyone but had financial support sneered. Young Master Co., your friend is going shopping. Aren't you going to help her out? Every other team has a guy backing them up. You're making her look bad. You could at least pretend. Ara knew Kale's situation perfectly. He couldn't even afford rent. So how could he possibly have a gold, diamond, or platinum card? Before Kale could speak, smiled and said, First of all, he's my friend, so he doesn't need to give me money to spend. Second, I'm perfectly capable of earning my own money, so I don't need to spend any man's money. And finally, he's not disrespecting me. He just knows I'm not the type to casually spend other people's money, and he knows I don't care about appearances. All is a queen, the perfect example of a modern woman. Why should a woman have to spend a man's money? This is exactly how a real billionaire aist should act. After her speech added, I'm not trying to say anything else. This is just my personal opinion. It might be different from yours. F.A. gritted her teeth in frustration. Damn it, she managed to spin it her way again. Ara then turned to Kayleigh and said, It's probably not convenient for you to be with us girls anyway. You should go wait with them at the coffee shop. Kale slowly nodded. As he walked toward the coffee shop, suddenly realized something. Kale didn't have any money. She couldn't let him go without even being able to buy a drink. Ara quickly took out her phone, opened WeChat, and transferred him some money. Kale, who hadn't gone far, felt his phone vibrate. He pulled it out and saw the message, for you to buy a drink. Kale glanced at the menu. Bottle of water was $250. Ara was stunned. Listen to me. We're not falling for that tourist trap. What kind of water costs $250 a bottle? It's not that I'm cheap, but you're only 21. You haven't really entered the real world yet. As someone with more experience, let me tell you, money is hard to earn. You need to save this $50,000 for your future wife. Being good-looking isn't enough. So I suggest you save where you can. Just hold on for a bit. When I'm done shopping, I'll buy you a juice box. Now, send the $1 back. Kale tilted his head and smiled silently. So, that last sentence was the real point, wasn't it? Lana turned around and asked gently. Ada, what are you busy with? Ara answered openly. Nothing. Just a friend needed something. Jade, who had been silent and aloof, chimed in jokingly. Could it be a boyfriend? Shook her head without hesitation. No. I don't have a boyfriend. I don't have time for love when I haven't even made my money yet. Did you hear that, young Master Kale? All is single. Go for it. Young Master Kale needs to step up his game. Faye picked up a white off-the-shoulder top and looked at it in the mirror. Lana came over and praised her sincerely. That top really suits you. It would look great on you. Faye, pleased that her taste was being recognized, smirked. I think so too. Jade, hearing them, looked over curiously. That top looks familiar. Isn't that the same style wore yesterday? I just looked it up online. This one costs $2,800. Similar style, different price. Oh, then is a much better deal. I want to buy that one too. I'm going to order it now. Fee frowned, her tone dripping with sarcasm. How could it be the same? How can you compare something from a flea market to a $2,800 top? Air turned to face Faye and gave a disdainful smile. You're right. They're not the same. One costs over $2,000 more. The live stream chat erupted in laughter. Nice one. All looked like it was good quality too. I looked at the official website. The material's almost the same. The extra $2,000 is just for the brand name. That's what you call smart shopping. Era is so sensible. But seeing all this, I just have one question. Is Ara a real billionaire with sensible spending habits? Or is she just broke? F.A. walked over to a nearby sales associate and said with a smile, "Hi, which item is your new arrival?" "This long dress is our new arrival. With your figure, it would look stunning on you." F.A. took the dress and walked right up to pretending to be helpful. "Ara, I asked the sales associate about their new arrivals, and they showed me this dress. But I think it would suit you better. Why don't you try it on?" Lana also took a look. Otto was wearing a long dress today too, so she chimed in. "Ara, you should try it. You look really good in long dresses." Even though Faye has been annoying since the show started, I have to admit that dress would be perfect for her. She's got good taste. To be honest, the dress, from its style to its fabric, was everything wanted. But when her eyes scanned the price tag, her heart skipped a beat. If she didn't win the million and she and Kyle split the 100,000 from the show, she would only get 50,000. No, she thought the bread will come and the dress will come, but not now. Fee, seeing that Lana was also chiming in, continued to egg on. "See, even Lana says it suits you. If you don't buy this dress, I think you'll definitely regret it," Ara thought to herself. So that's why Faye is being so nice. She wants me to spend money. Ara studied her racing heart, glanced at the dress, and said with a light smirk, her tone breezy, "I don't like to overspend on material things." The sales associate knew it was a lost cause. She had been in sales for years and was a good judge of character. Faye gave a contemptuous smile as if she were casually exposing her. "Oh, could it be that you don't have any money on you?" Era just laughed, completely unfazed. "How much commission would you get if I bought this dress?" F.A. was confused. "What do you mean? How much does this store pay you to be such a dedicated salesperson? Did you save up for that designer bag of yours with this part-time job?" Yeah, even the actual sales associate isn't pushing it that hard. It's like she wants to grab the money right out of Ara's purse. I think Faye is just being too pushy. To be honest, I'm also waiting for Era to prove her wealth by spending some money, Faye anxiously explained. "I'm not. Don't make things up." The sales associate standing nearby quickly stepped in to vouch for Faye. "I can confirm that this young lady is not an employee of our store." Allah's expression was calm. "Since she's not, then she should mind her own business. Just because I'm not buying this dress doesn't mean I don't have money. I don't need you telling me where to spend my money." F.A. was speechless. Just then, a woman walked in through the entrance of the boutique. She was dressed in a black professional suit and had a polite, poised smile on her face. She walked past the other three guests and approached Era. "Excuse me, are you Miss Arara?" Ara looked at her a little confused. "I am. What is it?" "My name is Jean, and I'm the mall manager. Our owner has instructed that for any store you visit, all new arrivals are to be given to you free of charge." Before could process this explosive news, Jean turned to a sales associate with short hair and said, "Please pack up all the new arrivals in your store for Miss." "Miss, please rest assured we will not charge you a single cent for these clothes. Our owner also said that it is our honor to have you shopping at our mall." The sales associate who was packing the clothes was in turmoil. She was a broke poser, but she's actually just low-key rich. Oh no, she's one of the owner's people. Did I just side with her rival? Am I going to lose my job? All was still in a daze. She wouldn't even dare to dream of something like this. Her dreams were clearly too conservative. Oh my god, I'm so jealous. This is the biggest shopping mall in the city, and they said it's an honor to have her here. This has to be the real billionaire. By the time several bags of new clothes were placed in her still dazed hands, Ara had finally started to process it. Which generous soul is being so kind? Ara was about to politely refuse, but Jean, as if reading her mind, smiled and said, "Missa, our owner said that if you don't accept, it would be a great loss of face for him. He might not be able to show his face in this city anymore. Please thank your owner for me, said, trying to keep her voice steady. She was on a show, so she couldn't say too much. It would be too easy to expose her fake billionaire identity. She decided she would take the clothes for now and return them unopened after the show. With this kind of status, if she's not a billionaire, I'll eat my hat. What's the relationship between the owner, and could he be a secret admirer? Young Master Kale, hurry. You've got competition. The other 3 female guests felt a chill run down their spines, as if they were standing in the freezing Antarctic. All the new arrivals in the entire mall were being given to Era for free. What was the point of them shopping anymore? This was a total knockout. The director's team, watching the whole thing unfold, was stunned. Where did you find such a powerhouse? Even the owner of Apex Group is giving her special treatment. None of our sponsors are as big as the owner of Apex Group. Kevin Jang pulled up a chair and crossed his legs. I found them on the street. Their acting skills are really impressive, much better than I expected. The production manager asked curiously, "What do those 2 do for a living?" Kevin sighed, his tone filled with pity. "They're both unemployed. When I found them, they didn't even have a place to live. I had to put them up in a hotel for 3 days. They were in such a bad state, but their acting is so good, I couldn't just let them go." The manager thought for a moment, then asked, "So, what's the deal with the Apex owner?" Kevin considered it. "My guess is they used the $100,000 we gave them to hire actors. The idea that they actually know the owner of Apex Group is just not realistic." The manager nodded. That makes sense, but something still feels off. Were they really hired actors? Half an hour earlier, in the coffee shop next to the mall, Sean, Finn, and Jay had ordered their coffee and were all looking at Kyle, who was engrossed in his phone. Jay noticed a faint smile on Kale's usually cold and aloof face and couldn't help but ask, "Are you in love? Or just being creepy?" Kale's smile vanished. He looked up, his deep, sharp eyes meeting Jay's, and his voice was low. "Do you need something?" He changes moods fast, Jay thought. "What are you having?" "Iced Americano." Sean took out his phone and, looking at the server, said grandly, "How much is it?" "I'll pay." The server, seeing 4 handsome men sitting there, blushed. "That will be $1,780. Jay pulled 2 $20 bills from his wallet. "Let's not fight over this. It's on me." The 3 of them, whether they were faking it or not, were all incredibly generous, not missing any opportunity to show off their wealth. Hale, on the other hand, was unusually calm. He stood up and said to a cameraman hidden in the crowd, "I need to make a private call. Don't follow me." The call connected. A fawning voice came through. "Mr. Lin, what can I do for you?" Kyle's tone was flat. "A friend of mine is at the mall owned by Apex Group. Arrange something for her. Make sure she's treated well right away." "Mr. Lin, what if your friend insists on paying?" Kale said immediately. "She won't pay, but you need to find a way to make her accept the items." "What's your friend's name? What does she look like?" "I'll send someone over right away," Kale said tonelessly. "Ara, she's wearing a cream-colored long dress. Very beautiful. Put everything she takes on my tab, but don't mention my name." With that, he hung up. That makes me a good partner, right? An hour later, the 4 women came out of the mall and into the coffee shop. Lara, seeing the 3 men sitting in the corner, frowned. Where was her great partner? Kyle was nowhere to be seen. Put the bags of clothes on the table and asked, "Where's Kyle?" Sean took a leisurely sip of his coffee and said slowly, "He was taken to the police station." "What?" Ada's face palled. "What happened?" Ada asked anxiously. "What happened?" Sean recounted what he had just seen and heard. There was a woman being harassed right outside the coffee shop. And then we saw the mall security take him away and hand him over to the nearby police. Faye looked at with a mocking expression that screamed birds of a feather. She said with a cold smile, "Getting taken to the police for harassing someone in broad daylight. Your friend is quite good looking. I never would have expected him to be that kind of person." Lana also found it hard to believe, her voice laced with fear. "That's scary. Someone like him shouldn't be allowed to stay on the show, right?" The other 3 teams were shocked by Kale's supposed character, but they were also secretly pleased. They were finally rid of a strong competitor. No way. The lazy young master Kale is that kind of person. And I even voted for him in Era yesterday. Can I take my vote back? Damn. Get that guy off the show. Is the bar for reality TV so low now? They're letting scumbags on. Ara, unaware that she was being trashed online, stood there, her mind blank. It took her a moment to process it all. Harassment. Taken to the police station. Her partner had been taken away. Did that mean her $1 million was gone? Wait. She hadn't known Kale for long, but she could tell he wasn't the type to harass someone. Could there be a misunderstanding? For the sake of her partner, she had to go see what was going on. Ara's brow furrowed, and she asked with a serious expression, "Which police station?" "The one about 200 meters west of the plaza. If you're going, you can just walk." Before Sean could finish, had already run off. When arrived at the police station, she saw a uniformed officer walking out. She asked, "Hi, I'm Kale's friend. Can you tell me what's going on with him?" The officer didn't seem to be in charge of the case. He asked, "We have a group here for a public fight and another for harassing a woman. Which one is your friend?" Ara wasn't a professional, but this felt a little awkward. She opened her mouth and said, "The harassment one." "Follow me," the officer said, leading her into an office. "Are these them?" Ara looked at the two sleazy-looking men sitting in the office, then back at the officer and frowned. "This isn't who I'm looking for. My friend isn't this ugly." One of the sleazy men glared at. "You're that brat's friend, right? Let me tell you, your friend hit my buddy. You're going to have to pay up." The mention of money immediately brought back to her senses. Her eyes scanned the two men. "I don't see a scratch on you. You look fine." "This is a police station. Don't try to pull a scam." The skinny man next to him clutched his chest and said in a pained voice, "Internal injuries." Another officer in the room slammed his hand on the table. "You two shut up. If you hadn't been harassing someone, would you have internal injuries?" Ada understood now. These two were no good. They were the real culprits. Era turned to the officer and said with an innocent expression, "You see, not only are they intimidating me with their looks, but they're also trying to extort me. You can't let them get away with this." The chubby man jumped up excitedly to defend himself. "I didn't! Don't make things up or I'll..." Realizing where he was, he quickly swallowed the rest of his words. Ara, pretending to be scared, took a step back and hid behind the officer. "Now he's threatening me and telling me not to talk. The punishment has to be more severe now, right?" The chubby man realized was deliberately provoking him and looked at the officer in panic. "Don't listen to her. We didn't try to extort her and we didn't threaten her. Don't make it more severe,"
the officer said sternly to the man.
"You shut up threatening someone in a police station. You've got some nerve." He then turned to his tone much softer. "It's okay. You don't have to be afraid. He will be punished according to the law." Ara nodded. "I trust you." The officer then took her to the office next door. As soon as the door opened, Ara saw Kyle sitting in a chair. He was leaning back lazily, his long legs spread out casually. Even in a police station, he didn't seem the least bit nervous or uncomfortable. Ada walked over to him and asked with a frown, "Are you okay?" "Do you have any idea how worried I was?" Kale remained unfazed, coolly exposing her. "You were worried about your $1 million, right?" Era forced a smile. "Don't say that. Your 50,000 is part of that million, isn't it? So, I was worrying for you, too." Still a money grubber through and through. Kale's lips curved into a smile. "Thanks." All waved her hand, her tone light. "What's there to be formal about? We're good partners. It's what I should do." As Kale gave his statement, watched the security footage of the incident. In the video, a beautiful woman was standing near the coffee shop, waiting for someone. The skinny, sleazy man walked past her and groped her. The woman cried out, and as the man was about to walk away cursing, Kale lifted his leg and kicked him square in the chest. The man immediately fell to the ground, wailing in pain. After learning the truth, Era finally relaxed. Thank goodness her partner was still usable. When they left the police station, Ara praised Kale. "Not bad. A hero saving a damsel in distress. You deserve some credit." Hale's expression was calm as he changed the subject. Are you done shopping? Yeah. Ara quickened her pace to keep up with his long strides. Let me tell you, I met a real sucker today. He said that for any store I visited in the mall, he'd give me all the new arrivals for free. Isn't that crazy? Hale stopped, his deep eyes meeting hers. He said directly, Could it be that I'm that sucker? Ada laughed as if she had just heard a joke. Are you kidding me? If you were that rich, how could you not even afford rent? Just then, a van pulled up in front of them. Kevin Jang got out and asked Kale what had happened. Ara explained the situation, and Kevin relaxed. A moment later, he looked worried again. Have you two seen the news online? Not yet, instinctively pulled out her phone. On the show's official social media, she and Kale were being torn apart by netizens. Kale also glanced at it, his eyes pausing. The comments were almost all telling them to get off the show. In the coffee shop, the other three teams had been chatting for a while, but they couldn't distract the viewers. What's going on with the show? Kyle is gone, and now is too. Are they still on the show or not? What a waste of my time. I even voted for them yesterday. I can't believe young Master Kale, as handsome as he is, would do something like that. Right at that moment, the coffee shop owner suddenly approached, politely asking, Excuse me, are you all with the guy who just got taken away by the police? The six of them fell silent for a moment. They really didn't want to admit it, afraid the owner would judge them. He might even kick them out. They were on a live stream. Getting kicked out would be a national embarrassment. Faye smiled and cleverly replied, We came together, but we're just filming a show. We don't know him that well. Since you're together, the owner said with a smile, your table. Just as the six guests thought they were about to be kicked out, they heard the owner say, You can order whatever you want today. It's on the house. Faye frowned, asking uncertainly, You said it's on the house. Not just Faye, but the other guests also thought they were hearing things. Yes, on the house, the owner confirmed. Just as the viewers thought the owner had lost his mind, a netizen posted, Kale is trending again. Some bystander had recorded a video of the incident and posted it online. The netizens who had just been bashing and Kale were now eating their words. Who was just bad-mouthing them? Come out and apologize. It's all Sean's fault. The way he said it made it so easy to misunderstand. When Arara and Kale returned to the coffee shop, the other six guests had already learned the truth from the internet. Jay, who had remained neutral, spoke first, saying, You're back. Ara nodded. She glanced at Sean, Fa, and Lana, her expression cold. Don't even talk to me. If it weren't for the three of them spouting nonsense on camera, she and Kale wouldn't have been dragged through the mud. Whether they had intentionally misled the viewers was still up for debate. But after all, her and Kale's team was in first place. John looked a little uncomfortable. Sorry about that. We misunderstood you earlier. Air's expression was flat. Did you? It's fine. I understand your intelligence is limited. Anyone with half a brain wouldn't jump to conclusions based on a few words. Back at the villa, Kevin Jang announced the second day's voting results. Today's first place goes to Alara and Kale. Second place to Jade and Jay. Third place to Sean and Lana. And fourth place to Faye and Finn. Fa frowned, skeptical. Are you sure that's not yesterday's results? They haven't changed at all. Impossible. These are today's results. Our show is streamed live nationwide, so don't doubt our authenticity. Ada and Kale, who had won first place for the second day in a row, maintained their money doesn't interest me expressions. For some reason, Kevin decided to add an interactive segment today. Perhaps he saw their potential and their sense of justice and wanted to give them more screen time. Kevin asked with a grin, You're in first place again today. Is there anything you'd like to say to the viewers? Or you can just share how you're feeling right now. Ara, who had fully embraced her billionaire persona, smiled faintly. Isn't this to be expected? Still as cool as yesterday. Agreed. Let's do a live Q&A tomorrow. I want to see more of my ship up close. I just feel like in Kyle's friendship isn't that simple. Me too. Did you see how worried he was when she heard Kyle was in trouble? She was freaking out. The show, ever responsive to its audience, set up a live stream for the next morning. Before it began, Era pulled Kyle into a corner of the villa. We need to be on the same page later. We can't let the viewers see through us, okay? To avoid being overheard, Ara was standing very close to Kale. She casually leaned back against the wall, while he stood facing her, one hand propped on the wall beside her, looking like he was about to corner her. But their expressions were completely serious, oblivious to how intimate their posture looked. Because of their height difference, Kyle, who was over 6 feet tall, had to look down at her. What chemistry do we have? He was right. They had only known each other for less than 5 days. All they knew about each other was that they were both broke. The other teams were couples or siblings, so their chemistry was natural. As partners who barely knew each other, they needed to come up with a plan. Ada pursed her lips. Are you good at bluffing? That bad feeling was washing over Kale's mind again. He sighed in resignation and said flatly, No. Ara sighed too. After a few seconds of silence, she decided to take on the responsibility herself. During the live stream, no matter what the viewers ask, you don't say anything. I'll do all the talking, you just nod, smile, and agree. That way, we won't give conflicting answers and blow our cover. Nod, smile, and agree. Hale nodded. Kyle's cooperation pleased. They were halfway to the $1 million prize. They couldn't mess it up now. Soon, the live stream began. Hi, everyone. This is Kale next to me. Ask away. What's the real relationship between you and Kale? Are you dating? Air chose to answer this one. She smiled faintly and clarified. We're just friends. Is there really no chance for you two to be together? Allah explained seriously. It's impossible between us. He's not my type. He's too young. I'm not into younger guys. Kale stiffened and turned to look at, his face darkening. Era frowned slightly. What was so scandalous about that? She answered calmly. Of course I have. How else would she know? Damn. She's actually seen it with her own eyes. A friend of mine wants to know how you saw it. Can you describe the process? What process? I just saw his ID when we were signing the contract with Kevin at the hotel. I saw that he was young. Says she saw it at the hotel. No process involved. Kale, who was usually so composed, looked a little flustered. On earth was she talking about a hotel? What have you two been doing behind our backs? This is getting juicy, in broad daylight too. Isn't that a bit much? Kevin, watching the live stream, felt his heart stop. He rushed into their room and said urgently, You two are crossing a line. Change the subject or the platform will shut down your stream. All glanced at the rapidly scrolling comments. They had indeed taken a turn. This wasn't damage control. This was adding fuel to the fire. Without her clarification, things wouldn't have gotten to this point. Ara quickly looked up and saw Kale's ominous smile. She quickly explained, Everyone, don't misunderstand. I'm talking about his age. His age? What's age got to do with it? Trust me, Ara, you'll come around. Young Master Kale, what do you say? He's not even defending himself. He must be heartbroken. Young Master Kale, say something. What was Kale supposed to say? They were just friends. It was the viewers who were reading too much into it. Ara changed the subject. You can ask more questions about the show. What do your and Kale's families do? Finally, a normal question. Ara's parents owned a small bun shop in their hometown. She chose her words carefully and said calmly, They just run a small business. Nothing worth mentioning. What about Kyle? Ara glanced at the expressionless Kale and made something up on the spot. His family owns a mine. Young Master Kale, are your sneakers fake? I'm not sure. The person above me is ridiculous. I'm in line in France right now, and I can hear your abacus from here. Why did you two join the show? Because they were broke and homeless. Of course, she couldn't say that. We wanted a change of scenery to have some fun. See, I knew it. Rich people are just on this show for fun. If you win the $1 million, what will you do with it? Ara's lips curved into a smile as she answered without batting an eye. We'll give it to people who need it. Like herself. Who needed it very much. It's so touching. Ada is going to give the $1 million to people in need. What a big heart. Say no more. All you and Kale are getting my vote today. I want to know, what do you high society people do all day? What's there to be curious about? We're just ordinary people. We eat, sleep, study, and work. How do you rich people make your money? Can you tell us so we can learn and maybe close the wealth gap a little? Bro, you've hit the nail on the head. I really want to know too. Fake billionaire Kale's mind raced. I inherited the family business. Such a simple answer. Kale leaned in so close. He's so handsome. I'm here for his face. Ara quickly spoke up to stop them. Just ask questions. No need to send gifts. She was on the show to win $1 million, not to make money from viewer gifts. Besides, the platform would take a huge cut. It wasn't worth it. Without another word, disabled the gift function.
Why did she turn off the gifts?
You people with your 9-to-5s want to send gifts to someone whose family owns a mine? What are you thinking? I just came from the other 3 team streams. They all said not to send gifts, but didn't turn off the function. For that alone, I'm voting for and Kale today. Ara rested her chin on her hand and said leisurely, "No need for gifts. We can just chat." Kale listened to her words and shook his head slightly, a small, unconscious smile playing on his lips. "Whoa!" The young master smiled. The way he looks at Arara is not innocent at all. I'm dying, everyone. These two are definitely a real couple. Ara watched the comments scroll by and paused for 2 seconds, then immediately turned to look at Kale. Their eyes met. Kale's expression was calm, showing no signs of being caught. Ara nodded in satisfaction. No talking, just nodding, smiling, and agreeing. He's doing great. Even though the viewers were misunderstanding, she could tell Kale was really trying, all for their $1 million. Ara gave him an encouraging smile. But to the viewers, this exchange looked very different. This is so sweet. I need to see more to be sure. You just said it was impossible, and now you're making eyes at each other on a national live ream. The only thing stubborn about you two is your mouths, said calmly. Does anyone else have any questions? If not, we're going to end the stream. I have a question. What's your relationship with the owner of Apex Group? Why did he give you all those new clothes for free? To be honest, she also wanted to know what was up with that owner, said lightly. We're friends. Was Kale's heroic act yesterday staged to win over the viewers? I bet it was a script. People will do anything for attention these days. Hearing this, Arara remembered the nasty comments from yesterday. She sat up straight, her casual, rich girl demeanor gone. Her expression was serious, and her tone was firm. It wasn't a script. If it were, it wouldn't have happened off camera. And to call such a righteous act a ploy for attention is a disservice to the person who stepped in to help. To the person who just suggested it was a script. I hope you will apologize to Kyle. Making baseless accusations on a national live ream could seriously damage her partner's reputation. Besides, Kale was still a young, innocent man. This could crush his pure young heart. Couldn't stand to see a kid being bullied. Kale looked at Era, his lips parting slightly. But then he seemed to remember something and remained silent. After the livestream, Kevin Jang smiled and announced, "There are no plans for this afternoon, so you can all rest. But you need to be up early tomorrow. We'll meet in the living room at 6:30 a.m. and head to Red Cliff Mountain." Faye frowned, looking displeased. "We're going hiking? I'd rather go to the amusement park next to it. You can decide for yourselves." The two places are right next to each other. Ara rested her forehead in her hand, her spirits sinking. It wasn't about whether they had fun or not. It was about the fact that they had to buy tickets to get in. Are we going to have to start spending money tomorrow? The thought pained her. Kale wasn't interested in any of it, so he remained detached. How are they supposed to show off their wealth at a tourist spot? Isn't that a place anyone can afford? The prices at Red Cliff Mountain and the amusement park are ridiculously high. The souvenir shops, trendy restaurants, and resort hotels cost several times more than in the city. I've never been there, so I'll let them check it out for me. After Kevin announced the next day's plans and left, they started discussing dinner. Sean put on his suit jacket, which had been draped over his arm, and stood up. Didn't we agree to take turns treating? Jay has already paid. It's my turn today, and I'd like to apologize to Kale, and it was my poor choice of words yesterday that caused you two to be misunderstood. No one had any objections. Sean took them to a Michelin-starred restaurant. As soon as they walked in, he presented a VIP card. A server respectfully led them to a private room. For those who don't know, you can only get into this restaurant with a VIP card, and you have to load at least 6 figures onto it. Thanks for the fun fact I'll never use. I just want to know how long it takes to spend that much money. Sean is so rich. When the food arrived, finally understood the essence of a Michelin-starred restaurant. Big plates, tiny portions of food, and a sprig of parsley in the empty space. Ara looked up at Kale, who was eating with extreme elegance, and pursed her lip. Faking being rich is exhausting, she felt for both of them. Lana wiped her mouth with a napkin and asked gently, "Where does everyone want to go tomorrow?" Faye suggested, "Let's go to the amusement park. Hiking is boring. Then let's go to Red Cliff Mountain first, and then the amusement park. The park is open at night anyway," Lana said worriedly. "Won't going to 2 places be too tiring? What's there to be afraid of? They have cable cars in the park." Ara's internal alarm bells went off. 2 attractions and a cable car ride meant her wallet was in danger. But then she thought for the past 3 days the other 3 teams had been fighting to pay to show off their spending power. So tomorrow they would probably fight to buy the tickets too, right? The cold air in the restaurant made shiver. Kale took off his suit jacket and draped it over her shoulders. "The AC is cold." All blushed slightly. "Thanks." After dinner, they received today's rankings. For the 3rd day in a row, Era and Kale were in first place. The other 3 teams were starting to lose their composure. They began to reflect on what they were doing wrong. They had spent plenty of money. So, where had they gone wrong? Oh, they knew where they had gone wrong. They had spent a lot of money while hadn't spent a single cent. This couldn't go on. They had to do something to knock Ara and Kale off the top spot. Kale sat on the sofa, his long legs crossed, his posture relaxed. He lowered his gaze to his phone screen, his lips pressed into a thin line. He was watching a recording of his Andar's livestream from that day. In short, he was catching up on the gossip about himself. Ara, sitting across from him, was completely unaware of the online buzz. She had a gut feeling that something big was going to happen tomorrow. She thought for a moment and said worriedly, "We've been in first place for 3 days straight. Do you think the other 3 teams will try to cause trouble tomorrow?" Kale locked his phone and put it in his pocket, his dark eyes looking straight at her. "But you're the one with nothing to lose, right? What are you worried about?" "I'm worried they'll take off their shoes and compete with me barefoot." Kale nodded. "That's not impossible." All mused. "So being barefoot isn't going to cut it anymore. We need to upgrade our strategy." Then Kale watched as slowly raised her right hand and placed it over her heart. Kale froze. "What are you doing?" She curled her lips into a smile and said slowly, "Being barefoot is nothing. This is the secret weapon to win over the viewers." Hale quickly looked away. He cleared his throat, his gaze landing on a corner of the living room. As he struggled for words, pointed to her heart and said confidently, "Sincerity is the most moving thing. If we use our sincerity to win the viewer's support, we'll definitely win." Kale turned to look at incredibly serious expression. Speechless, Ara lowered her hand and, remembering the viewer's comments from today, suddenly asked, "By the way, do you have a girlfriend?" Kale answered openly, "No." Ara was relieved. "Good. I was worried that with all the shipping from the viewers today, it might cause a misunderstanding between you and your girlfriend. She was here for the money, not to get involved in some messy love triangle. That kind of thing could easily affect their partnership. And if their partnership was affected, it would affect their chances of winning the $1 million. Hyle looked at her for a moment. "There is one misunderstanding, but it's not that." Kale thought for a moment, then fell silent. After a while, neither of them seemed to have anything else to say. They headed upstairs to their rooms. As they reached the turn in the stairs to the 2nd floor, Kale suddenly stopped, turning around, his deep eyes fixed on Ara. He was standing on the 3rd step above her, so she had to tilt her head up to meet his gaze. Ara looked up at him, confused. "What's wrong?" Kale had one hand in his pocket and the other on the railing. He leaned down, bringing his face level with hers. The movement instantly closed the distance between them. So much so that if either of them moved just a little closer, their lips would touch. Ara could even feel the faint, cool scent from him and the warm breath from his lips. She was momentarily dazed, Then she heard his low voice slowly saying, "Sis, I've been thinking about it, and I feel like I need to clarify something. 21 is not young." Ara paused, then suddenly understood. Kale was annoyed at being called a younger guy, and was trying to make it clear that he wasn't the kid she had described. Ara watched Kale's retreating figure and chuckled. And he says he's not a kid. Meanwhile, in a luxurious European-style mansion far away in another country, Secretary Lee knocked on the open door and spoke respectfully. Serafina Sue's eyes remained on the document on her computer screen. "Have you contacted him?" "Not yet, but I saw the young master online." Secretary Lee raised her head slightly, carefully, watching Serafina's expression, not daring to say more. He never expected that the long-lost young master of the Lin family would appear on a ridiculous reality show, flaunting wealth like this, and even get publicly paired up as a couple by the production team. Worst of all, he had accidentally gotten hooked on that couple. Last night, he stayed up until the middle of the night just to watch. Serafina looked up, her gaze sharp. "What's going on?" Secretary Lee lowered her eyes, not daring to meet Serafina's gaze. "The young master is on a reality show called Who's the Real Billionaire?" Serafina frowned, her expression dark, her presence commanding. "Send someone now. I don't care what it takes. Bring him back to me immediately," Secretary Lee said cautiously. "Ma'am, the show is very popular right now, especially the young master. If he suddenly disappears from the show, it might not look good, and my fun will be over." Serafina opened her browser and searched for the show. The most prominent hot search was about Kyle and Ara. Who is this? The young master's partner. Serafina quickly scanned the content and closed the browser, unfazed. She said coldly, "Bring him back as soon as the show is over. I don't care what you have to do, just make sure he's breathing." On the fourth day of the show, at 6:30 a.m., Ara appeared on camera in a gray tracksuit and light-colored sneakers. Knowing that today would be physically demanding, she had dressed for comfort. Kale, who was walking behind Ara, glanced at her bag a couple of times. In the short time it took to come downstairs, young Master Kale has already looked at several times. I don't want to ship them, but they're so shippable. Young Master Kale is also in a gray tracksuit today. Is that not a matching set? Oh my god, I'm dying. After the four teams gathered, the production team arranged for a bus to take them to the scenic spot. Lana turned around curiously and looked at Era, who was sitting in the back. "I watched your live stream yesterday. I heard young Master Kale's family owns a mine." "What a coincidence. Our family does too." "Where is your mine?" Air swore she had just made that up on the spot, and never would have thought it would overlap with someone else's story. Knowing that Kale wasn't good at bluffing, she glanced at him and answered for him. Africa. She had read in novels that whenever a domineering CEO was angry, he would send his assistant to a mine in Africa. So, the location had to be right. Lana asked again. "So, what kind of business is your family in?" Allah answered calmly. "Mainly the restaurant industry." Lana smiled. "The restaurant industry is very profitable. Why don't you take us to your family's restaurant tomorrow? You can give us a tour of your business." Ara's lips curved into a smile as she said slowly, "Everyone has seen a restaurant before. Why don't you take us to your family's mine tomorrow? I'm sure the viewers would be more interested in a mine than a restaurant." Whoa. Is this a high-stakes game today? Are they starting to expose each other? I love this kind of drama. Let the fight begin. Restaurants aren't that interesting. I want to see a mine too. To be honest, I want to see young Master Kale's family's mine. Lana's expression faltered. She exchanged a look with Sean, then said slowly, "Mines aren't that interesting to see." All felt that something was off. She had refused, and Lana had also refused. Even though it wasn't that interesting to see, it was a great opportunity to show off their wealth. Why would Lana pass it up? By the time the bus arrived at Redcliffe Mountain, it was almost 9 a.m. The four teams, each more stunning than the last, attracted a lot of attention from the other tourists as soon as they got off the bus. But since they were all ordinary people, it didn't cause a major commotion. However, 15 minutes later, the four teams were still standing at the entrance, not moving, like mascots. Is my phone lagging? Why aren't they moving? Aren't they going to fight to buy tickets? Same question. I think my connection is bad too. I just re-entered the stream and I'm telling you, they haven't moved. Faye, in her shirt and hot pants, was getting restless. She kept glancing at Lara. Even though she had put on sunscreen, she couldn't stand being out in the sun for this long. Faye took a breath, about to speak, but Finn, who seemed to know her well, nudged her with his elbow, and she swallowed her words. John wiped a bead of sweat from his forehead and also turned to look at Era. Jay kept darting glances at Aurora, his mouth shut tight as if he were trying to stop himself from saying something. Just then, the center of attention, Era, moved. Everyone turned to look at her, and they saw her slowly take a light pink sun umbrella from her canvas bag. Ara opened the umbrella and stood closer to Kale. The small umbrella barely covered them both. Since Kale was tall, Ara had to hold her arm up high for them to share it. Kale felt the shade, and glancing at Ara holding the umbrella, silently took it from her. But Era, who looked so carefree on the surface, was actually very confused. From the time they got out of the car until now, no one had said a word. And no one mentioned buying tickets, leaving her completely clueless about what was going on. Not just the viewers, but herself was baffled, because this was completely different from the ticket-buying frenzy she had imagined. Ara looked around and saw that the other three teams were all looking at her. She asked curiously, "Aren't you here to see the sights? Why are you all looking at me?" Lana looked at shielding her head from the sun with her hand and said slowly, "Aren't you going to buy the tickets? Are they all waiting for me to buy the tickets?" It sounded like Lana was saying they weren't going to fight over it today, and we're just going to give her the chance to show off. But she didn't need that kind of opportunity. All looked at the high mountain peak with a blank expression. I'm not interested in this kind of pay-to-suffer activity. Sean smiled and chimed in. How is this suffering? There are so many romantic spots to see inside. All said, seriously, I'm allergic to romance. Then Jay said with conviction, I'm allergic to romance too. If your team isn't going, then my sister and I aren't going either. As soon as Jay finished speaking, Lana quickly added, I think it's suffering too. If you two teams aren't going, then Sean and I aren't going either. F.A. was reluctant, but she said with a haughty expression, If all three of you aren't going, then my brother and I aren't going either. Aura's heart sank. Weren't they just copying her and Kyle's strategy, leaving them with nowhere to go? Kevin Jang, seeing this, almost had a heart attack. This was a show about guessing who the billionaire was, not a competition to see who was the poorest. Just as Kevin was about to take some drastic measures, a black van slowly pulled up near the entrance. A woman in a professional suit leaned out of the van and looked at the entrance. Her face lit up with shock and excitement, and she couldn't help but shout, The billionaire! Kale half closed his eyes and said in a low voice, I think that's one of your fans. The woman pulled her phone from her pocket and handed it to Kale, who was holding the umbrella. Could you take a picture for us, please? Thanks. The viewers in the live stream chat burst out laughing. Isn't she a fan of the couple? Why is she asking Kale to take the picture? I'm so jealous of that fan. I want to be close to the rich girl too. Kale's long, elegant fingers picked up the phone, his expression unchanged, calmly taking on the role of an unwilling photographer. The woman then turned to Ara. Are you here to visit? I'm the manager of this scenic area. I can take you inside. Before could refuse. She had already enthusiastically pulled Ara and Kale onto the van. The other three teams were left standing there, stunned. The woman's excitement hadn't faded. I haven't had a chance to watch today's live stream yet. I just had to step out for a bit. I'll catch up when I get back to the office. Ara, remembering her own days as an office worker, kindly advised, just watch it when you have time. Don't let it affect your work. I also wanted to ask, young Master Kale's family owns a mine. So, does your family own one too? She didn't mean anything by it. She was just curious about the lives of billionaires, Ara answered with a straight face. Our family is mainly in the restaurant industry. The woman glanced at Kale and asked, What kind of mine does young Master Kale's family own? What kind of mine? She had to make something up. A diamond mine. The woman's mouth dropped open in a big O, clearly shocked. I can't believe I'm sitting here chatting with two billionaires today. All silently added to herself. Two broke people. As they chatted, the woman parked the van at a fork in the road. This is as far as I can take you. Take the path on the left. In a little while, you'll reach the cable car. It's an easy way to see the scenery. It's great. I have to get back to work, so I won't keep you. Ara opened the car door and looked back at the woman, saying sincerely, "Thank you." Before she left, the woman smiled and encouraged, "Keep it up. I'm sure you'll win." Ara watched the van drive away, then placed a hand over her heart and said to Kyle, "Did you see my sincerity?" Kale looked at her holding the umbrella. "What I saw was you lying through your teeth. Can't we just have a nice time together?" Hale felt his phone vibrate in his pocket. He took it out, glanced at it, and then started walking down the path on the right. All seeing this called out to him, "Where are you going?" "She said the view is better on the left." Kale waved his phone and said with a hint of amusement, "Hold on, I have a big deal to discuss with the African diamond mine." All muttered under her breath, still holding a grudge. Back at the entrance, Fa bought 6 tickets, and the others reluctantly followed her into the scenic area. Not long after, a tour bus drove up. Allah looked up and saw Faye get off, saying in a snide tone, "Why didn't you wait for us? Was it because you couldn't afford our 6 tickets?" Ara shrugged, looking innocent. "The whole world saw me refuse. I can't help it if my fans are too enthusiastic. Besides, didn't you all just say you didn't want to come in? Why should I force you? This is a burden that Kale and I will just have to bear alone." "You call getting a free trip into the park a burden?" "She was forced to come in. It's not like she deliberately left them behind." "What is Faye complaining about? She's just jealous. She's jealous that our girl was treated so well by her fans." Faye's face stiffened for a moment. Then she snorted. "How convenient that a fan of yours just happened to show up, and she just happened to be the manager of this place. Who knows if you didn't just hire someone to put on a show? Why else would you have waited at the entrance for so long?" Ara's lips curled into a slow smile. She stood up, walked over to Faye, and handed her a flyer she had been using as a fan. Faye looked at it a little confused, but she took it instinctively. Before she could read it, she heard his lazy voice say, "I think you'll find this useful." Faye looked down at the flyer. "Welcome to the psychiatric hospital." Faye looked at Ara furiously. "What is that supposed to mean?" Ara gave a pure, innocent smile. "Delusions of grandeur are a type of mental illness. I suggest you get treated early. I already looked at the flyer for you. They have the top experts. It's quite reliable." "You're welcome." F.A. threw the flyer on the ground and shouted through gritted teeth, "I don't need your thanks." Ara looked down at the flyer as it fluttered to the clean pavement and said sternly, "Pick it up. Don't litter." Faye, looking defiant, bent down, picked up the flyer, and crumpled it in her hand until it was a wrinkled ball. Finn couldn't take it anymore and stepped in front of Faye. "That's not necessary. Maybe my sister was a bit direct, but she had a reasonable suspicion. You don't have to call her mentally ill." Ara was about to retort when her wrist was pulled back. She stumbled back a step, and a tall figure stepped in front of her. "You have a reasonable suspicion, and we have a reasonable rebuttal. Is there a problem?" Kale pulled her behind him, his dark eyes fixed on Finn, his voice low. Finn was half a head shorter than Kale. Whether it was the height difference or something else, he was genuinely intimidated by the sharp, arrogant young man in front of him. He composed himself, put on a "we're above this" expression, and turned to lead Faye away. Faye was clearly not done. She shook off Finn's hand and, pointing at a behind Kale, said, "You're all talk, blat." Faye suddenly felt something cool and solid fall from the sky and land on her head. The rest of her sentence died in her throat. Ara, who had just stepped out from behind Kale, saw it and said quickly, "Don't move." "That's nature's gift to you after hearing your words." As finished speaking, Faye heard the stifled laughter of the other guests. Finn's face darkened, his eyes filled with disgust. "Go to the restroom and clean it up." "It's bird poop." The viewers roared with laughter. "Nature's gift, Ara. You know nature so well." The cable car station was just ahead, but Ara had no intention of taking it. Spending money was out of the question. The others turned to look at Ara, but she didn't even glance at the station. Since she wasn't taking it, they wouldn't either. Jay, seeing a drink stand, looked like he had found his savior. He ran over and asked the woman selling drinks to get him a bottle of water from the cooler. The other guests also went to get water, but Ara stood where she was, not buying anything. Today, no one was fighting to pay. Everyone was paying for themselves. Jay drank half his water, and looking at the empty-handed Alara, and Kale asked curiously, "Aren't you two getting any water?" "We have some." All took a bag out of her canvas tote, and inside were 2 bottles of cold water. The others were stunned. Fa, still fuming, sneered. "The #1 billionaire can't even afford to buy a bottle of water." Ara gave a cold laugh. "I have money, but I'm not a sucker." The other teams looked down at their own expensive but ordinary bottles of water. Ara's move had completely wiped them out. Actually, the richer you are, the more frugal you are in your daily life. Ara fits the billionaire profile perfectly. Compared to her, the other 3 teams really do look like suckers. Ara's lips curved into a slight smile. "You think you can outsmart someone who's been broke for over 20 years? Lana looked at Sean and said in a delicate voice, "Sean, I can't open it. Can you help me?" Sean smiled doingly, took the water bottle and opened it for her, full of boyfriend power. Jay clicked his tongue. Daily dose of PDA received. Kale, watching Sean, instinctively turned to look at Ara and the unopened bottle of water in her hand. Ara, feeling his gaze, looked away from Sean and Lana and met his eyes. "You can't open yours either." "Need my help?" "Ada, you really are allergic to romance." Kale was clearly about to ask if you needed help, and you thought he couldn't open a bottle. Do you really think he's that weak? Today's hot search, "Kale is not strong enough," is already being prepared. As she spoke, effortlessly twisted off the cap of her water bottle and held it out to Kale. Kale's lips twitched as he also effortlessly opened his bottle, then touched his bottle to hers. Ara raised an eyebrow. "Was that a toast? I'm dying. You two have to toast with water bottles. So ceremonial." Is Kale trying to disprove the not strong enough rumor? Other people show affection, but you two look like you're about to become sworn brothers. A few minutes later, they crossed a small bridge and came to a large open area with several carnival game stalls. Jay grabbed a guy at the end of a line and asked curiously, "Why is everyone playing at this stall?" The guy said excitedly, "The other games just give you stuffed animals, which are useless and a pain to carry while hiking. But this owner is a genius. He's giving away tour bus tickets." Ara, who was nearby, perked up at this hour bus, who would walk when they could ride. "Excuse me, how much is this game?" Ara asked directly. Whoa, Ada is actually going to spend money. I've taken a screenshot to commemorate the billionaire's first purchase. The owner gave a sly smile. 50 cents for 10 shots. If you hit 9, you get a tour bus ticket worth $1.50. It takes you to all the best spots in the park. It's the top-tier ticket. All thought for a moment. What if I hit all 10? The owner, thinking she was joking, said generously, "If you hit all 10, I'll give you 10 tickets and your money back." Ara's lips curved into a smile. "I'm serious." "Are you?" The owner joked back. "Don't be so confident, young lady. There are a lot of people watching. Why don't you just walk away now and I'll pretend you were never here? I'll let you save face." Allah shot him a look. "Just make sure you keep your word. You don't need to worry about anything else." She put on the safety goggles, sat down. She expertly aimed the toy gun at the balloons. Her long, slender fingers rested on the black trigger, her eyes sharp and focused. A balloon popped. Ada smiled in satisfaction. First shot. Not bad luck. Whoa, she got it on the first try. Ada, you're my hero. Someone tell me how I can be friends with the rich girl. I'll even be hers. The owner's eyes widened in disbelief. I rigged that gun. How did she hit it? But then, who had now gotten the feel for it, hit the next 9 shots in a row. Ada held out her hand, her lips parting slightly. Tickets. The owner was stunned. Is it too late to take it back? With everyone watching, the owner reluctantly handed over 10 tickets. Ara not only got a free ride, but also won 10 tickets. She's the master of getting things for free. The tour bus stop was right next to the stall. Ara and Kyle handed 2 tickets to the driver and got on. Just as the other 3 teams were about to follow, the driver said, "Tickets?" Ara, holding the remaining 8 tickets, said lightly, "Since we're on the show together, I'll give you a discount. Buy one, get one half off." Aside from the impossible shooting game, ticket price was the best deal in the entire park. Ada, you're a cunning businesswoman. That's a billionaire for you. I finally know what separates me from the rich. When a rich person's mind is working, it's making money. When my mind is working, it's hitting a dead end. A few dings from the QR code scanner sounded in the bus. The first ticket was $1.50. The second was 75 cents. With 3 teams, made a total of $6.75. No cost, pure profit. Not a bad gig. You could say is generous since she gave a discount, but you could also say she's stingy since she charged them. I feel like out of all the teams, and Kale are the most real. They're not acting at all. I think and Kale are definitely the real billionaires. Soon, they arrived at Red Cliff Amusement Park. Ara looked at a stall selling crepe-like snacks and swallowed. Back when she was working, that was her breakfast every day. She asked casually, "Have you guys ever tried that?" All 3 teams, except for Kale, shook their heads. Seeing this, Alara said generously, "I haven't either. Let me treat you all. Don't try to fight me on this." The other 3 teams were stunned. You're finally being generous. But who was going to fight her for it? She was using their money anyway. They've never had a crepe before. Well, considering they've been eating at Michelin-starred restaurants and steakhouse, it makes sense. They're supposed to be billionaires after all. Or maybe they're just faking it. Ara bought 8 crepes, spending $80, leaving her with a balance of $5.95. Lunch was settled. The adult admission to the amusement park was $5.99. Ada held her ticket, feeling smug. I just treated everyone. They can't possibly make me pay again, right? Faye clicked her tongue. Walked to the ticket counter, and bought 8 tickets. Lana glanced inside the park, at the long lines for every ride, and sighed. A salesperson approached them and introduced the VIP All Access Pass, which included free food and accommodation, and allowed them to skip the lines. They asked, "How do I get one?" The salesperson explained, "You just need to pay a $3,000 membership fee and then load $8,000 onto the card." As soon as the salesperson finished, Lana saw digging through her canvas bag. Was she looking for her wallet to buy the all-access pass? Lana was surprised. "Are you going to buy that?" She couldn't believe that the frugal was about to spend so much money on an all-access pass. Ada finally found what she was looking for in her bag. A moment later, she pulled out her phone and said tonelessly, "I'm not going on any rides, so why would I buy a pass? You guys go ahead. I'll find a place to wait for you." I shouldn't have gotten my hopes up. Life is all about having a membership. It gives you special privileges for everything. But I think I'll pass on this one. Era turned to Kale. "Aren't you going to play?" Kale looked up at her and said with a straight face, "No, I'm not done with the deal for the African diamond mine. I need to sort out some details." He's getting good at this new identity, she thought. He's not so bad at bluffing after all. Era took out her phone and started looking for a place to sit. "Hey, can I get your number?" A young man in trendy clothes with a bright smile walked up to her. All politely refused. "Sorry, no money, no career. I'm not dating." The young man looked disappointed but didn't want to give up. "Really? Is there no chance?" This time, before could speak, a deep, magnetic, and completely cold voice answered for her. "You're not her type. You're too young. She's not into younger guys." "Oh no." The young man was speechless. "You can refuse me, but do you have to be so brutal? A man can't be told he's not good enough. Our girl is so popular." The young man looked at Kale, the one who had spoken, and noticed that he and the young woman were wearing matching tracksuits, looking very much like a couple. And Kale's eyes were cold and sharp, his tone aggressive and unfriendly. The young man, holding on to a sliver of hope, asked him, "Are you her boyfriend?" Air quickly clarified, "He's not." The young man breathed a sigh of relief. "Then he's a younger guy, just like you." The young man felt a little better. So he wasn't the only one who had been rejected. He looked at Kale with a hint of sympathy. "So, we're in the same boat. It seems you've been rejected too." Kale gave the clueless guy a cold look and corrected him. "I'm not like you." The clueless guy was confused. How are you different? Also turned to look at Kale, curious to know how they were different. Kale held out his phone, tilting his head up slightly. She's the one who asked for my number. The young man had been rejected when he asked for her number, while Ada had been the one to ask for Kale's. They were indeed different. To the young man who couldn't even get her number, Kale was already miles ahead. But the young man's thought process was unique. He completely missed the "we're not on the same level" point Kale was trying to make. So she got your number just to reject you when you asked her out. Kale glanced at him, ready to leave. Talking to an idiot was lowering his IQ. Ara stepped in to explain for Kale. He didn't ask me out. The young man pouted, feeling even more sorry for Kale. Rejected before you even asked. That's rough. Kale was speechless. It would have been better if she hadn't explained. The young man had managed to get a double kill. Then Kale said coolly, "I have her number." A fatal blow. The young man who hadn't gotten her number clutched his chest. You win. You're good at twisting the knife. Is Kale showing off that she asked for his number? Can we just move these two billionaires to the dating show next door? I need to keep shipping them. After the young man left, found a bench and sat down. Kyle sat down next to her, leaving a respectable distance between them. Ara took out her phone, shielding it from the camera, opened WeChat, and tapped on Kale's profile. Do you want to get something to eat? We made some money today, so we can spend it. She asked because she figured a small crepe wasn't enough to fill up a guy who was over 6 feet tall. And he was still a growing boy. Kale took out his phone, looked up at her, and then typed, "Even if it's over $1?" All scoffed. You say that like I'm cheap. Hearing her scoff, Kale was about to reply, "Aren't you?" when another message came in from her. But try to get something with good value. Then she transferred him $5. See my power? Am I cheap now? Kale grunted. She was indeed more generous than last time, but a second later, he wanted to take back his thought. Get me something too, on your way back. I'm still hungry. So the grand sum of $5 was their shared food budget. Just then, her phone dinged. Laura opened it and saw that someone from her old company had tagged her. Ara, a friend of mine, posted on their social media that they met a billionaire, and I think it's you. There was a picture attached. It was a photo of Ara standing at the entrance of Red Cliff Mountain. A conversation had already started below it. That's definitely Laura. I saw her on a hot search a couple of days ago. It was for some billionaire reality show with a cheesy name. You were hiding your identity at the company for 2 years. Are you some kind of rich Aries who came down to experience normal life? Same name, same face. It has to be her. I can't believe a billionaire was right next to me. Rich girl, please support me. All didn't reply in the group. She had a feeling her cover was about to be blown. The company had her resume and her ID information. If someone with bad intentions leaked it, the past 4 days would have been for nothing. She hoped she could last until the end of tomorrow. If she could just get through tomorrow, she would have the $1 million, and then they could say whatever they wanted. She had to hold on. Ara looked at the chat, then sighed. Just then, a bucket of buttery popcorn appeared in her line of sight. She looked up and saw Kale. The afternoon sun shone on him, softening his usual cold demeanor, making him seem a little more gentle and approachable. He was actually quite handsome. Kale looked down. Popcorn? No cilantro. Kale bought Ara popcorn. Is he finally making a move? What's going on? Did I miss something? Why would popcorn have cilantro? Ara placed the popcorn between them and started eating while scrolling through housing listings. Suddenly, she clicked on a link to a video. After watching it, she excitedly sent it to Kale on WeChat. I found something else good. Take a look. Make sure the camera can't see and be sure to mute it. Kale was already immune to Ara's way of talking. The how to fake it with style incident was still fresh in his mind. Then with Ara watching him, he, for some reason, watched the entire video on how to act classy. Tomorrow is the last day. We have to be strong. Watch it a few more times when you get back. It'll guarantee we don't mess up tomorrow. Kale chuckled softly and didn't reply. And neither of them spoke again. By the time the other 3 teams were done playing and everyone was back at the villa, it was already dark. Kevin Jang, as usual, started announcing the rankings. First place goes to Arara and Kale. Second place to Lana and Sean. Third place to Jade and Jay. And fourth place to Faye and Finn. Faye frowned and asked, "Are you sure these results are real?" Kevin said, "Seriously, the voting results are public. If you don't believe them, you can verify them. I swear on the head director's life that there is no manipulation in this show." Was Faye doubting that was always in first place? The other three teams had items on them that were worth more than anything owned. How could she be in first place? After his announcement, Kevin made a special announcement about the next day's plans. Tomorrow, we're going to an auction. You can all prepare for it. R had never been to an auction. She went back to her room and started researching auctions. She didn't want to go to the auction tomorrow and know nothing. That wouldn't fit her high-ass image. She studied a ton of information about famous paintings, antiques, and gems until her eyelids felt heavy. It was already 2 o'clock in the morning. If she didn't sleep now, she wouldn't be in good shape for tomorrow. So she didn't sleep well that night. She had a dream that was completely absurd and wild, and the subject of her dream was Kale. When she woke up, her forehead was covered in a thin layer of sweat. Her hair was damp and stuck to her cheeks, and the corners of her eyes were a little red. In the dream, Hale was like a different person, a fierce beast that left her with no room to resist. Why would I have a dream like that? She thought. So weird. When Era, dressed and ready, walked into the dining room, she saw Kale eating breakfast. She froze, her eyes fixed on him, her heart trembling. Last night's dream had really shaken her. Kale suddenly looked up and, seeing the dark circles under her eyes, said lazily, "Did you study all night?" Ara leaned forward slightly and said very seriously, "I dreamed about you last night." Kale suddenly had a very bad feeling. Air explained, "I don't know why I had a dream like that. I know it's not your fault, but now when I see you, I feel very conflicted." Speaking of that, I'm feeling confused too. You just dreamed about it. I haven't even done anything yet. Do you know how awful you were in the dream? You bullied me until I cried. I couldn't even fight back. I still feel wronged just thinking about it. You took away my most precious thing. Whoa. Is this something I should be hearing for free? Or I'll give you 50 cents right now. Just send me the details of your dream. Ara took a deep breath and glanced at the cameras around them. Never mind. I'd better not say any more. Kale had a gut feeling that the dream version of him was not a good person. But Ara had stopped halfway, and now he was curious to know just how much of a monster he was in her mind. He was about to say something when Faye, Lana, and the others walked in. Ordinary employee fired by Ricket Group. A certain billionaire, Ms. E, who is ranked first on a certain reality show, is actually just an ordinary employee of Ricket Group and has now been laid off. Don't be fooled by her. She instantly calmed down inside. It's so hard to be low-key. There's no privacy at all, Faye said with a cold smile. Why don't you check the hot search before you try to deny it? All said openly. Since it's already come to this, there's no point in denying it. I did work at Ricket Group. Femd immediately turned to the camera and said triumphantly, "Did you all hear that? Ara admitted it herself. So don't vote for her team today." I can't accept this. I don't believe it. Is someone trying to frame our rich girl? And Kale's acting was so good. I hope to see them again if there's a next season. As soon as Faye finished speaking, Ara slowly stood up and said leisurely, "What's your hurry? I'm not done. I went to work at Ricket Group to prove my own skills and talent, but I never expected their boss to be visually impaired and unable to see my skills and talent. That's why I was laid off. So this is what they mean by, if you don't succeed, you just go home and inherit $1 billion fortune. Look at how troubled Ara is. How about I inherit the family business for you? Look at how calm Kale is just playing on his phone. I think Alara is telling the truth." A moment later, a video was pushed to the top of the comment section. I am that visually impaired boss, and I'm here to clarify. The name on the layoff list was a mistake made by one of our employees. Miss E was not laid off by our company. As long as Miss E is willing to return to our company. I will do my best to meet any of her demands. The visually impaired boss is here to clarify himself, and it's from the verified Ricket Group account, so it's definitely him. Just then, received a friend request on her phone. The note read, "Your visually impaired boss requests to add you as a friend." Ara hesitated for a moment, then accepted. "Hello, Missy." Ara didn't hold back. "I'm not doing so well." Rikji wasn't angry. He humbled himself completely. "To show my apology. As long as you're willing to come back to work, I will meet all your demands." "I'll think about it." Rick got anxious. "Don't think about it. As long as you come back, you can have any position in the company. I want to be the boss. I'm not at retirement age yet. I'm not asking you to retire early. I'm saying I want to start my own business and be my own boss. If you work for someone else, you'll always have to deal with their attitude and be under their thumb." She could take the prize money and start her own business. Why not? Rick Chan pushed a contract across the conference table. "Mr. Shang, you see, I've done everything you asked. Can you take a look at our contract now?" Nathan Shang seemed dissatisfied. "You can go back for now. I'll think about it some more." Rick panicked internally. Everyone is thinking about it. I'm about to have an anxiety attack. Nathan Shang watched Rick's retreating figure and snorted. "You mess with our little princess, and you still want to work with me?" A moment later, Nathan sent a message on his phone. "Mr. Lin, it's all taken care of." Hale, who had just finished his last bite of toast, looked down at the message and simply replied, "Okay." After replying, he looked thoughtfully at Ara, who was eating breakfast across from him. What on earth had he done in her dream to leave such a deep psychological scar on someone so resilient? To bully her until she cried and take away her most precious thing? What was most precious to Ara? A moment later, Kale frowned slightly. What was he doing analyzing Ara's absurd imaginary dream? Kale immediately pushed the thoughts out of his head, stood up, and went back to his room to change. After finishing breakfast, also went back to her room to change. She took a black, strapless, long dress from her closet. She had bought it last year for Ricket Group's semi-annual celebration. The company had required everyone to dress in high-end attire to project an image of prestige and success. She had only worn it once because it was too restrictive for squeezing onto buses and subways, hindering her ability to move freely, but it was perfect for today's auction. Another day of Sing. The rich girl looked so beautiful today. I'm suddenly a little jealous of Kale. As soon as she came downstairs, she saw Kale in a suit. His tall, slender figure was striking and eye-catching. The black suit accentuated his cool, noble demeanor, making him seem even more composed and reserved than usual. Ara walked up to him and whispered a compliment. "You look quite handsome today." Hale gave her a lazy glance. "Just today?" Ara's eyes crinkled into a smile as she praised him sincerely. "You're handsome every day. Good partners needed to encourage each other daily." Kale seemed pleased, a barely perceptible smile gracing his lips. "What about me?" asked expectantly. Hale didn't even look at her as he coolly uttered one word. "Average." Ala let out a long, drawn-out,
Ugh.
and like a true drama queen, wrapped her arms around herself, her eyes filled with a faint sadness. "I'm so cold," she said pitifully. Hale said tonelessly, "It's 82 degrees today." "I'm talking about," Arara said, emphasizing each word. "My heart, sis. It's cold." A moment later, saw Kale take off his suit jacket and drape it over her shoulders. The jacket, with its cool, clean scent, easily enveloped her small frame. He leaned in slightly, bringing his face close to hers, a faint, well-behaved smile on his lips, and his voice was low and slow. "You should wear more, sis. Then your heart won't be cold. Who told you that wearing more would warm my heart? And I didn't want a jacket. I wanted a sincere compliment. It's 82 degrees out and you're giving me a jacket." You're so good at caring for people. This guy's emotional intelligence was destined for a life of solitude. Before they left, Kevin Jiang explained the day's schedule. "Today, we're going to the Fuji auction. After the auction, there will be a dinner. Once the dinner is over, our show will be coming to an end. Tonight, I will announce the final results, and the winning team will take home The $1 million cash prize. The car's air conditioning was on, so the temperature was low, and wearing the jacket wasn't hot at all. It was actually very comfortable. So comfortable, in fact, that forgot to give it back to Kale. She felt so comfortable, she wanted to sleep. She was so sleepy. Staying up all night studying and then having that dream had left her exhausted. Thinking of the dream, Alara glanced at Kale, who was sitting next to her. Her eyes seemed to hold a small knife, which she metaphorically stabbed into him. Kale probably guessed what she was thinking and said softly, "Dreams aren't real." Ara looked at him, her expression complicated. But in the dream, you pinned me to the ground, and Kale quickly covered her mouth with his hand. Her warm breath misted over his large palm, and as her lips moved, they unintentionally brushed against his skin, soft and creating a slight ticklish sensation. Kale's eyes darkened for a moment, and he lowered his voice. "Don't say any more." Ara frowned. "Fine, but can you move your hand?" "I know." Ara was confused. "I haven't even finished." "What do you know?" "I want to hear it. I'll even pay. Let's finish." What was she going to say? Why did Kale stop her? Kale slowly removed his hand and looked down at his palm, which was slightly damp and had a faint, ambiguous red lip print on it. Ara took out her lipstick and a mirror to touch up her makeup, then gave him a small warning. "Don't cover my mouth like that again. You need to be gentle with girls, you know." Kale rested the arm that had covered her mouth on his leg, palm down, and turned to look out the window, remaining silent and letting her say whatever she wanted. An hour later, they finally arrived at the Fuji auction. From the first car, Sean stepped out, walked around the front, and gallantly opened the door for Lana. His gentle gaze fell on her luxurious gown as he held out his hand and said softly, "Be careful." The second car brought Faye and Finn. She looked up at the entrance of the Fuji auction, her eyes filled with a sense of arrogant determination. The third carried Jade and Jay. After opening the door for Jade, Jay bowed and made a please gesture. Jade, seeing his cringy act, warned him, "Be normal, especially when we get inside." Kale opened his door and did the same. She immediately took off the suit jacket and handed it back to him. Ara and Kale followed the other three teams into the auction house. It was truly a high society event. The decorations in the lobby alone were worth more than an ordinary person could earn in several lifetimes. She stared through the glass at a pigeon egg-sized gem necklace, a dazzling diamond, and a fan made of gold, and couldn't help but swallow. She wanted to take it all home. She didn't know if real billionaires were above such material desires, but she was definitely not. "No. I have to stay calm. I have to control myself." Kale, standing beside her, watched as her expression shifted from longing to a desire for possession, and finally to a restrained indifference. Just as Era pulled herself away from the jewelry, she scanned the crowd in the lobby. Oh my God, such important people are here. There was Mr. Sterling, one of the country's top tycoons, and her favorite actor, Aiden Pei. All never dreamed she would be so close to such big shots. She allowed herself a moment of weakness as her knees went numb. Just then, Aiden Pei walked past her. Noticing her gaze, he gave her a friendly greeting. "Long time no see. You're looking even more beautiful lately." The famous actor was greeting her and complimenting her. Ara feigned composure and said, "Thank you. The actor is so handsome. I'm going to be glued to my screen." Aiden Pei knows. Who's going to doubt her billionaire status now? Aiden Pei nodded slightly and smiled. "Let's get dinner together sometime." Kale suddenly spoke up. "You like his type?" Ara's expression had clearly been different when she was looking at Aiden Pei. All answered truthfully. "My mom does. She's a huge fan of his." Kale slowly nodded. Faye, seeing that Ara was chatting with Aiden Pei, couldn't be left behind. A billionaire at such a high-end event had to have some connections. Faye took out her phone and made a call. Soon, a man with a beer belly walked over from the crowd. "Faye Finn, you're here too." "Uncle Chen," Faye said sweetly. Mr. Chen smiled in satisfaction. "Let me take you to the front seats." As if to show off, he added, "Let's have and the others join us." Even though Ara knew the actor, he had only spoken to her for a moment and then moved on. Their relationship was clearly not that close. They all sat down together. Faye introduced the other 6 guests to Mr. Chen. When she got to Ara and Kale, she deliberately emphasized, "This is young Master Kale, whose family owns a mine in Africa. And this is Miss Ara." Coincidentally, her family is also in the restaurant industry. Faye didn't believe for a second that Allah's family was actually rich. When Mr. Chen started talking about high-end restaurant management, if Era couldn't answer, it would prove she wasn't a real billionaire. Mr. Chen, hearing they were in the same industry, smiled even more warmly. "I'm also in the restaurant business. Does your family run a Western or Chinese restaurant?" All didn't know Mr. Chen, but from his appearance, he was likely a big shot in the restaurant industry. Fa was really trying to stir up trouble by having her, whose family owned a small bun shop, chat with a restaurant mogul. She curled her lips into a slight smile and said calmly, "Chinese, but it's just a small business." Mr. Chen smiled, his expression appreciative. "It's rare to see such humble young people these days," Ara replied, without batting an eye. "Not at all. You're the one we should be learning from." Mr. Chen laughed heartily at her words. "What are your thoughts on the current development of Chinese restaurants?" Faye smiled smugly. "Let's see how I answers this," All said calmly. "I have my own goals and don't pay much attention to the family business, so I haven't done much research on this topic." Mr. Chen was curious about the younger generation's mindset. "So, what are your goals?" Arrayed with a straight face. "First, to make $1 billion. The young people today are so much more ambitious than we were. $1 billion? We never even dared to dream of that when we were young." Mr. Chen lamented. All smiled. To be honest, she didn't dare to dream of it either. Mr. Chen turned slightly and looked at Kale, who was sitting next to Ara. "Her goal is to make $1 billion. What about you?" Ara glanced at Kyle as if to give him a hint. Kale, picking up on her cue, said nonchalantly, "My goal is to spend $1 billion first. That's our lazy, good-for-nothing, idle young master. That's something he would do." "Look, you guys, they're so perfect for each other. One wants to make $1 billion, and the other wants to spend $1 billion. Isn't this just the sweetest thing?" They chatted for a little while longer before the auction began. Ara looked at the items up for auction. She couldn't afford a single one. They were all at least 7 or 8 figures. Fa started causing trouble again. "Kale, if you just buy a few items now, you'll have reached your little goal." On the stage, a necklace called Moonbeam was up for auction. It was a one-of-a-kind piece symbolizing a secret admirer's hidden confession, with a starting bid of $10 million. As soon as the starting bid was announced, the tycoons in the audience started raising their paddles. Kale noticed that Alara seemed to really like the necklace and instantly raised his paddle, shouting, $100 million! Kale and Ara are a match made in heaven. Tycoon sees their chemistry and starts playing matchmaker on the spot. It was clear that most of the wealthy attendees were here for this necklace. 110 million. Someone raised their paddle. It didn't cost anything to make a bid. Kyle paused, then added, "You can bid too if you like it. I can't. If I bid, my image as a refined billionaire will be ruined," said very seriously. Sean smiled slightly. "That necklace is beautiful. I'll buy it for you as a birthday present." Lana demurred. "That's too extravagant. I don't need such an expensive gift." Era looked at him. "The necklace is nice, but it's not worth 100 million. Just then, Kale sent a text message. The auctioneer received it and immediately announced, "A mysterious buyer has secured this item with a bid 3 times the auction price." Ara, hearing this, complained to Kale. "Did you hear that? 300 million! What kind of colossal sucker would pay that?" Kale just nodded helplessly. Sean looked disappointed. "That's a shame. I'll find you a new gift another day." Lana held his arm and comforted him softly. "I'll love anything you give me." All nudged Kyle. "But your act of pretending to bid was very billionaire. Keep it up." After the auction, everyone moved on to the dinner, which was held on the floor above the auction hall. Since the attendees were all wealthy, the dinner was, of course, incredibly luxurious, Finn said with a fawning smile. "Mr. Sterling, this is my sister Faye. I hope you'll look out for us in the business world in the future." He held out his wine glass, about to clink it with Mr. Sterling's. Mr. Sterling raised a hand to block him, his deep, authoritative voice saying slowly, "I don't drink." Mr. Chen, who was nearby, tried to smooth things over with a smile. "Why are you still so old-fashioned?"
Can't you give the young people a chance?
Mr. Sterling, in his typical tycoon fashion, said, "Opportunities are earned, not given." After being rejected by Mr. Sterling, Sean, Lana, Jade, and Jay, who had been about to stand up, paused and sat back down. Mr. Sterling is a true tycoon. He's on a completely different level from these young people. His presence is so powerful. Air's team has to be the real deal. While the other three teams were getting ready to smooth with Mr. Sterling, Era didn't even move. Ara, who hadn't had a chance to stand up yet, thought to herself, "Good thing I was busy eating and was slow to get up." Sometimes being a little behind had its advantages. But Kale beside her was also incredibly calm. He hadn't even glanced at Mr. Sterling once. He exuded an air of, "Mr. Sterling isn't even worthy of my attention." This kid was really good at faking it. And then the two of them caught the tycoon's attention. Mr. Chen introduced them directly as, one is who wants to make $1 billion, and the other is Kale, who wants to spend $1 billion. Ara and Kale gave a slight nod, a silent greeting. Mr. Sterling laughed. "That's an easy problem to solve. Kale can just give you the $1 billion, and you'll both have reached your goals." Mr. Chen disagreed. "But then the young man would lose out, wouldn't he? The young lady would have made her $1 billion. But what would he get out of spending his?" "That's not hard to solve either," Mr. Sterling said, putting his business acumen to use. "Kel can just marry Laura." "Do tycoons like to ship couples too?" "I think our ship has a name now. Let's call them the $1 billion couple." Coughed a few times. Logically, what Mr. Sterling said made perfect sense. But the problem was, Kale didn't actually have $1 billion. This was getting off topic. So, she calmly explained to Mr. Sterling that she didn't want to make money for the sake of money, but to experience the joy of earning it and enrich her life. And marrying for money would be unprincipled. Her refreshing and noble words seemed to impress Mr. Sterling. Well said. It's rare to see a young person with such awareness. Let's have a drink. All gracefully lifted her wine glass. The other three teams were baffled. "Didn't you just say you don't drink?" Mr. Sterling finished his drink, put down his glass, and looked at Kale in his black suit. "She's a great girl who doesn't even care about money. What are you waiting for?" Kale, holding the script in his mind, smiled. "She's probably a girl who likes nothing but money." Ara's hand holding the wine glass paused. "Why is this tycoon so into matchmaking? Or do Kale and I really look like a couple?" Mr. Sterling took a call and left in a hurry. Faye, who had been waiting for a chance to talk to him, asked with a frown, "Uncle Chen, why did Mr. Sterling leave so soon?" Mr. Chen, who was used to it, said with a chuckle, "Usually that means his wife is calling him." That necklace he bought for over 300 million was for her. He came all the way back from abroad just for it, even though he had a big business deal to attend to. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Secretary Lee took a few deep breaths. "Ma'am, Mr. Sterling said his wife asked him to buy a necklace, so the signing will be delayed by a day. As an apology, he's willing to offer an extra 10% profit." Serafina Sue's voice was cold. "I know." Secretary Lee stood there completely shocked. "The ma'am isn't angry." Serafina Sue looked at the dumbfounded Secretary Lee. "Compile a list of all the clients whose contracts with the Lin family are about to expire, and tell everyone that I will be handling these clients personally." Secretary Lee was confused. "Ma'am, are you going to meet with all the clients yourself?" Serafina Sue nodded. "Yes, I will, on behalf of the Sue family." It sounds like the ma'am is planning to split the family, he thought, poaching the Lin family's clients for the Sue family. Isn't that just straight up robbery? What's going on with the ma'am and the master and the young master who ran away from home? There were only 3 of them, but it felt like a family of 800 before he could figure it out. Serafina Sue glanced at her watch. "After you've compiled the list, fly to the city and bring Kale back. I can ship my couple up close." Aiden Pei held up his wine glass, a gentle smile on his face. I forgot to ask earlier. Do we have each other's contact information? Can I get your number? The famous actor was asking for her number. What if Aiden Pei found out later that she wasn't rich? That would be so awkward. But rejecting him on the spot would probably be even more awkward for him. For her mother's sake, she decided to spare him the embarrassment. Of course, my name is Era, and my mother is a huge fan of yours. Asara spoke. Kale, who had been expressionless, paused in the middle of drinking his red wine. Aiden Pei smiled. Then we should have dinner with your mother sometime. I'm free tomorrow. Era thought for a moment. Tomorrow might not work. My dad will be home. Aiden Pei chuckled softly. We can bring your father along too. No, he can't come. If he sees you, he'll lose control. I'm afraid you won't be able to handle it. Aiden Pei's eyebrow twitched. Then let's reschedule. Because of the toast with Mr. Sterling. If her identity were to be revealed now, she probably wouldn't even be allowed in the dinner. So she still had to work hard to make money. By the time they got back to the villa, the sky was dark. Ara leaned back on the sofa, her posture casual and calm, but her nerves were stretched taut. Kevin Jang held his phone, a mischievous smile on his face, trying to build the atmosphere. Why don't you all guess which team is most likely to win this season? Faye, looking sullen, said impatiently, If you don't announce it soon, we're all going to bed. Kevin announced excitedly. The team that has won this season's $1 million prize is Arara and Kale. At that moment, couldn't hold back her smile. Kevin handed Ann Kale a foam board with $1 million written on it. Come on, give us your acceptance speech. Hale tilted his chin slightly, as if to say, You go ahead. Ara stood up, holding the foam board, and smiled at the camera. Thank you so much to all the viewers for your support and trust. I wouldn't have won this prize without you. But I have to be honest with you all, I'm not a real billionaire. What did you say? Ada, you cruel woman. Is this how you thank us? I only watched this show to show off my intelligence. All's acting was amazing. F.A. looked at the camera with a resentful expression. I knew from the beginning when she didn't want to spend money that she wasn't a real billionaire. I was trying to help you all see the truth, but you wouldn't believe me. Kevin didn't waste any more time and quickly announced the real billionaire's name. Our only real billionaire team this season is Jade and Jay. Jay looked at the viewers with a, "You've disappointed me" expression. I came in a helicopter, and you still picked the wrong team. Thigh. So it was really Jade and Jay, but their team had such a low profile. It's mainly because acting was too good. She was too strong. After announcing the results, Kevin waved at the camera. All right, that's it for the first season. See you next time. Back in her room, Ala lay on the soft, comfortable bed and rolled around several times. $1 million. $1 million? No, wait. 500,000. 500,000. Ara was so excited she wanted to share it with someone. So she took out her phone and sent a message to Kale. I can't. Rain or shine, I'll be waiting for you on the second floor balcony. Kale replied instantly. No. All rolled her eyes. So heartless. A moment later, Kale hadn't replied. Era sighed. He was really unmovable. She was about to scroll through her contacts when she felt a large shadow fall over her. She turned her head and saw a man's metal belt buckle, then a simple white shirt, and finally his sharp jawline. The man's tall figure blocked the light from a wall lamp on the balcony, and in the backlight, he was cast in a commanding shadow. All pouted. I thought you weren't coming. Kale looked down at her, his tone flat. I'm doing a public service. Ara frowned. Kale strode over slowly, explaining, to stop you from bothering some other young guy in the middle of the night. How could she call it bothering? Ara was about to argue, but then she remembered she had won $1 million and waved her hand magnanimously. Whatever, I'm in a good mood today, so I won't argue with you. Air handed Kale a can of beer and opened one for herself. To our $1 million victory. Ara raised her beer, plinked-kecked it against Kale's, and took a big gulp. In her good mood, she looked up at the night sky and suddenly felt that everything was beautiful. She sighed. The night is so beautiful tonight. It's completely overcast. What's beautiful about it? Hale asked, looking at the starless, cloud-covered sky. Era turned to look at Kyle, her face straight, and smiled. The person I'm watching it with is beautiful. Kale met her eyes. That's a little cheesy. Ara's smile slowly froze on her face. You know what? You should just go back to bed. You're ruining my good mood. I can't sleep now. Era took a sip of her beer and couldn't help but ask, have you ever been in a relationship? Kale took a pull from his beer can and grunted a straightforward, no. All had a moment of realization. No wonder he's so bad at talking to girls, Kale asked casually. Have you? Ada, who had been single for 24 years and had been set up on countless dates by her mother, felt a sharp pang in her heart. Let's just leave it at that, kid. This is the first and last time I'm asking you to chat. All smiled slightly. You shouldn't pry into an older sister's business. Kale let out a soft snort, turned to look away, and brought his beer to his lips. They sat in silence for a while, and had already finished most of her beer. She suddenly asked, why did you have to find a place to live? Where are you from? You don't sound like you're from around here. After she spoke, a silence fell between them. Kale leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees, his fingers tightening around the beer can. He gave a self-deprecating smile. I don't have a home. So young and already homeless. No wonder he was broke and had nowhere to live. A wave of sympathy washed over, and she said gallantly, it's okay. We've been through thick and thin together. If you ever have any problems, just tell me. I'll be here to listen. Actually, Kale was about to say something when it suddenly started to rain. Ara looked up at the sky. Now it was really raining. Their chat was forced to end. Kale slowly stood up. Get some sleep. You don't want to miss the prize money transfer tomorrow. Kale's words reminded her that such an important moment was indeed not to be missed. So she quickly stood up, cleaned up the table, and rushed back to her room before Kale. Kale watched her hurried retreat and suddenly laughed. Ara woke up around 8 a.m. the next morning. She packed her bags and found that the other 3 teams had already left. But she didn't see Kyle. She found a staff member and asked, where's Kale? The staff member replied, he came to confirm with the director last night that filming was over, and then he left early. Ara was stunned, unable to believe it. What? Suddenly, her phone dinged. 1 million has been deposited into your account. So inconsiderate. He left without even saying goodbye. Ara grumbled to herself for a while, then suddenly remembered that he hadn't gotten his share of the prize money yet. How could he just leave? So she immediately took out her phone and tried to call him, but the call wouldn't go through. A moment later, a call came in. Ara thought it was Kale, but it was her mother. Ara, something's happened. There's trouble at home. After hanging up, rushed to the bun shop and saw several troublemakers out front. She immediately turned to her mother and asked, what's going on? Her mother grabbed her hand and said excitedly, daughter, you're my only hope now. The redevelopment plan was supposed to give each shop on this street $800,000. But yesterday, the company's representative came and told us they're only giving each shop $700,000. They just dropped the price by $100,000. Aren't they just treating us like fools? All's brow furrowed. You mean the redevelopment company's representative is lowballing you all? Her mother nodded. That's right. I saw your video online this morning. You were on some show, and you seem to be quite famous online. So, I was thinking, maybe you could use your fame to expose this heartless representative. Once we get the $800,000, I'll give you a H100,000 to spend however you want, Ara asked urgently. Which company is their representative from? Her mother thought for a moment. Golden Jade Group. She quickly grabbed a business card from the coffee table and handed it to her. Ara took the card and immediately went to find the representative. 20 minutes later, Ada looked up at the skyscraper built of money and thought to herself, they're already so rich, and they're still ripping off ordinary people. Such heartless capitalists. As she walked into the Golden Jade Group building, she happened to glimpse a familiar figure. He was tall and slender, with one hand in his pocket looking down at his phone. It was Kale.